It's time for MacBreak Weekly. There is a big leak of the iOS 14. It was leaked out of Apple. 9 to 5 Mac has broken it all down. You'll be amazed at the amount of features. As Micah Sargent said on iOS Today, it's kind of like WWDC all jammed into about an hour. Speaking of WWDC, we talk about whether it might be canceled. There's reason to think it might be. It was never announced, so I don't know if you can cancel it. And we'll celebrate International Women's Day. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly. MacBreak Weekly comes to you from Twit's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure they are by making access and authentication seamless. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit. This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 704, recorded Tuesday, March 10th, 2020. Bagel Philanthropy. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by LastPass. From access to authentication to passwords, LastPass manages every entry point to your business so you can mitigate risk while improving employee productivity. Visit lastpass.com/twit to find out how they can help you. And by Health IQ. Health IQ uses science and data to secure lower life insurance rates for healthy people like you. To see if you qualify, go to healthiq.com/MacBreak and take the Health IQ quiz. It could help you save up to 41% on your life insurance premiums compared to other providers. And by Hover. Use a domain name that truly represents you and your passion. Visit hover.com/twit to get 10% off your first purchase on any domain extension for the entire first year. It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Let's talk Apple, and there is a lot to talk about this week. My goodness. Joining us from Sacramento in her pink lair, Lori Gill, managing editor, imore.com. Is the house pink? You should have a pink house.
The house is bright yellow, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's even better.
Even better. Yeah, it goes well with pink. Her hair is pink, for those just listening, and it's beautiful. In fact, I think Alex Lindsay said he wished he could have your hair.
I was thinking,
I'll help you out with that.
Okay, great. I was thinking pink with some blue streaks.
Blue's
good.
Yeah,
that would look good.
I like them all. I like the hair that changes colors at different angles, no matter what angle.
Yeah, I was thinking my kids really wanted a mohawk. They suggested a mohawk, and I said, I don't know if I can go on air with
It'd
that.
be great for TikTok.
They said, just don't put stuff in it on the show days, and it'll just look like a shortcut, and then you can stick it up.
Just saying, it'd be great for TikTok. Alex Lindsay, 090 Media. At 090.media. He is Alex Lindsay on the Twitter. And thank you for coming to St. Louis.
I had such a great time.
It was a death-defying act, but we did it. We flew to St. Louis.
We survived.
Well, so far.
So far. Right. 14 days, we'll know.
I think they said now 5 days.
Is it 5?
You should, on average, you get 5 days. It could be longer, but on average, you'll have symptoms. And it's been 5 days, right? It was Thursday.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
We skated, baby.
What an amazing place.
We were at Worldwide Technology, one of our sponsors in St. Louis. I was really impressed.
I was very impressed. It was a great tour, and just an amazing location and amazing services. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we had a great time. Yeah. So that is now a Twit Live event. It's in our Twit news feed, I think, right? Which feed is it? At news or at events? I can't remember. Events. So twit.tv/events. It was a panel discussion on the future of tech in the cloud.
As someone who does a lot of walkthroughs, it's a really nice theater.
Oh. And by the way, Heil mics on Heil stands everywhere. Yeah. That impressed the heck out of me. They have good taste in microphones.
Absolutely.
And they shot it. It was a multi-camera shoot, and they knew what they were doing. It was well done, I thought. So, there's those Heil mics. So if you're interested in the cloud, and we had some great anecdotes, great stories, Mary Jo Foley, Alex Lindsay, that's Mike Dorosh on the right from Gartner. He'll be on Twit soon. He was a talker.
He was good.
He was great.
Yeah. And
he lives in Chicago and makes his own pickles.
And he used to tour with it. He used to be the Dead's
tour manager.
Amazing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He's done a lot in life.
Yeah. He's lived a full life.
Yeah, worked at IBM. That's an interesting contrast.
Yeah, exactly.
First at the Dead's tour. No, I think it was IBM first, then the Dead's tour manager.
Right, yeah.
That is Andy Ihnatko to my right from Boston Public Radio. Hello, Andrew.
Hello. Boy, that guy must know how to get drugs in all kinds of situations. That's a skill you got to cultivate. They don't teach you that in sound engineering school, do they?
He worked with the Dead in the early 90s for a couple of years, managing their tours.
Okay, so high blood pressure medication, Lipitor.
No, he wasn't in his 90s. It was the. And also with us all the way from Montreal, home of the last great bagel. It is Mr. Rene Ritchie from imore.com. Hi, Rene.
It's true. The last two great bagels, St. Viator and what's the other one? Oh God, I'm gonna get my citizenship
Fontainebleau?
I'm blanking out on it.
You're
St.
not
Viator
Canadian.
and well, no, you have to excuse me because we have freezing rain, and that means the power goes on and off all night. And because I have smart accessories, they come on whenever the power comes back on.
You've been up and on all night?
And
Oh,
UPSs, so it's like hue lights and beep, 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 just like every 15, 20 minutes. And yeah, I'm back in the Stone Ages.
Is Saint Viateur still open? Because the last I saw, there were under threats in a variety
Fairmount.
of different ways. One, Fairmount, yeah. The other, the both of them are wood-fired ovens, and Montreal was going to shut that down. And then
They have
last year,
legacy permission.
they said they got a rent hike and they were going to close, which was probably they were saved by the bagel philanthropists.
Yeah.
I would hope.
What would we do? I mean, it's a national treasure.
Bagel philanthropy.
A lot of big hearts there in the bagel community. I don't think that's been reported enough.
No.
One of my favorite stories, and I don't know if it's apocryphal, but I believe it's accurate, is that the factory that makes the cheese curds for Poutine had a fire and couldn't produce. And because that was a national disaster, other cheese factories donated capacity so that our cheese curds could continue.
That's so Canada. That's so Canada.
And
God bless it.
Did they apologize that they didn't do it fast?
We're sorry. We'll help. We're sorry.
Yeah.
Speaking of Canada,
in a crisis, they always find a way.
Speaking of Canada, I just got off the phone with Ray Maxwell, our second favorite Canadian after you, Renee. Ray used to do a show on the network, which was a great show called Maxwell's House. In fact, all the old episodes are still online, worth watching. But he's a professional color scientist. In fact, he was the guy who explained to me there's no such color as magenta. I think it's magenta. There's no such color as.
It's fake.
It's fake. It's a made-up color.
Today they were saying that brown is fake. They said it's just orange with context. I don't know anything. Color revision isn't any part of the
Also true.
In any event, Ray happens to have a Mac Pro. He's the only person I know besides Marquez Brownlee who owns a Mac Pro. Marquez is going to be on Twit on Sunday.
Nice.
But I'm going to have Ray do our hands-on tech review of the Mac Pro. He has a lot to say, and because he's a color scientist, he says the XDR display is a color scientist's dream. I said, did you get the entry level? He said, no, I kind of got the mid-range. And then he told me he got the 32 terabyte Promise RAID in it.
Yeah.
32 terabytes. Well, he shoots a video with his DJI Phantom. 6K video with that X7 camera. He's of course a great photographer. Does medium format stuff too. He's really so maybe he needs all those. But he said he discovered the first flaw in the Mac Pro. That 32 terabyte RAID array by Promise is cooled by Apple, and he said there was maybe some miscommunication. It overheated on day 2, and he contacted Apple and he said that they updated Mac OS in 15.3, I guess it was. OS 10 has the fan speed goes up a little bit.
I have to admit, I'm religious about not putting my drives in my.
I wouldn't put it inside.
I have like just the drive in the computer for me is always the apps. You know, the apps and the OS and everything else, and then you have an
everything's external.
That way, if something goes wrong with the computer, all I have to do is send the computer in, and I'm not sending all my data and everything.
It's tempting though because you have all that room in the Mac Pro case. You have all those bays.
Yeah,
it's got to be tempting.
It is tempting. Don't.
32 terabytes. Wow. Wow.
I don't know if you saw the Verge review, but they basically loaded it up and then ran every Adobe application possible and said, Adobe's not optimized for the Mac Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, not optimized because of the graphics
It doesn't
drivers?
use the GPU.
Yeah. That's sad. Well, I'm sure he'll have a lot to say. That'll be a good hands-on tech. That's coming up. We're going to arrange a date to get ready to review the Mac Pro and the XDR.
Oddly enough.
Are you going to have him open up a bunch of Chrome tabs and see how many it takes to shut it
So
down?
this guy's a real, he's a real user.
Oddly enough, the Apple apps seem to take full advantage of the computer.
Oh, what a surprise. Surprise. Too bad Aperture's gone.
Well,
You can run it.
I know. I saw that.
32-bit, but you can run it.
Yeah.
Has anyone tried running Flash on these computers? That would be interesting.
That would. I don't think it can handle
almost
it.
as much as a Chrome tab.
Yeah.
Almost as much power as a Chrome tab.
Anyway, so I just thought a little shout out. I got an email the other day from a guy who said, "Whatever happened to Ray Maxwell? I loved that show, Maxwell's House."
Great.
Last on Sunday, Twit was like 3/4 COVID-19. I'm not going to do that to you, but there is some coronavirus news. We'll just give it to you. We'll get it out of the way.
Very, very relevant this week. Yes.
Well, yeah, it's probably going to get more relevant
every week right now.
before it stops getting relevant. Bunch of stories in the Kofivi 19 column. Tim Cook outlines measures. He sent an internal memo outlining measures that Apple's taking in response to the global, what may be a pandemic. Work from home. He says this is a challenging moment, unprecedented event. Please feel, he told employees at several global offices, I imagine Italy's one of them, please feel free to work remotely if your job allows. That's got to be tough if your job doesn't allow.
Yeah.
Do you go in anyway and take a chance? Or?
Well, if your job allows, I think you get a large percentage of people able to work remotely for at least some period of time.
Certainly coders can work.
The hard part, I think, is that it's not
The
really
design
cultural.
lab is hard.
Yeah.
It's culturally not, most people at Apple go into work, so it's a different culture for that.
So because, and I think this is something we discovered, is that people who work at home often aren't doing much. It's hard.
they
It's
also
hard to
have
get.
huge security
I'm sorry,
policies
Lori,
that-
but it's true.
No, it's not true. You
It's
just
not
have the
true.
wrong people
Maybe
working for you.
that's it. Yeah.
It does take it takes a mentality, I think that
Yeah,
to
it
do
does.
it where I actually do more work at home because I'm not spending the time driving and I'm not spending, and I get up in the morning and start working and then I work all the way into the evening and there's little stops in the middle, but it's just a different kind of work. And also you have to be really good at being visible to the folks that you're working with.
That's
I think
that's the
big
problem
thing.
is if we can't see what you're doing and there's no obvious output,
Right.
then we just can't tell
Yep,
if
exactly.
you're
My
doing
problem is
anything.
they don't stop. Like, wake up, start
Yeah.
working.
Yeah,
stop
you
working, go to sleep.
both of you and
Yeah.
Lori both have output. You've got vector, you've got articles, you've got editing.
Yeah.
But if
Easier to see
if we
the
have a sales,
production.
like my son, I'll use as an example, who was working home on Fridays, doing sales. Sales. There's no clear output. You either make sales or you don't.
Right.
So I think that's anyway. This policy at
I
Apple.
had a remarkable conversation, Leo, where I was talking to an analyst, and they said, "Well, start preparing for a baby boom because after a lot of
what do
disasters,
people do
are
when they
forced to
stay home?
We have baby booms. So start investing in all those consumer packaged goods."
So I am the last baby boom. It was post-war. All the GIs came home, and suddenly there were a lot of babies 9 months later.
Yep. Then you have the Gen Xers, which were the next.
Was that a boom?
They were the children of the booms. So they
Yeah,
were,
so that was a
one in
little
Quebec
less.
after the ice storm.
That was like the
Gen X.
ripples coming off of the baby boom.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
this
also,
could be interesting.
the millennials came from when Seinfeld ended, and now people had nothing to do on Thursday nights.
Seinfeld and Leno was a double whammy.
Yeah.
So Cook's memo said this applies to corporate offices in the Santa Clara Valley, where that is probably outside of Seattle, the West Coast's hotspot. Elk Grove, which is also in California, Seattle, South Korea, Japan, Italy, Germany, France, Switzerland, and the UK. Cook said Apple's making this is interesting, a major effort to reduce human density and ensure those teams that are on site can do their work safely and with peace of mind. And in other words, spread out, because social distancing is another way to reduce infection. Apple's implementing, quote, new efforts to maximize interpersonal space and continuing enhanced deep cleanings. Now, one thing we didn't hear about is WWDC, although, and I don't know if this will be germane, but apparently Santa Clara County, which is where Apple is, has banned mass gatherings.
Well,
For a couple weeks.
On Thursday, was it a ban or was it just advisory? They released
ban.
along with
The ban was yesterday.
Okay, that was I know that on Thursday they did a very, very long memo, basically not saying Apple, but saying Apple. We're encouraging you. We're encouraging large scheduled mass gatherings to be postponed or canceled. Yes,
Kind of a hint.
I think it's only for 2 weeks, right? It's a short-term ban, and they're going to reassess in a couple weeks.
Yeah, if the virus goes away in 2 weeks, they can have WWDC.
Yeah,
Well,
they
I mean, that
it'll
gets
just
the
go
March
away.
event off the calendar and probably
Yeah.
gets Google I/O, which has already been canceled. And
Yeah,
then,
well, F8, Facebook's developer conference,
Yeah.
Google I/O, Google's developer conference, both canceled.
South by Southwest.
South by Southwest. That was Austin saying we really don't want all those people coming down here.
Right, and that's going to be disastrous for. I mean, a lot of these for the like for instance.
Well, that's the thing. It's a big economic hit for a city to take, but at the same time,
it's not
what do you
just the
do?
city.
Say, oh, we need the restaurants business, but everybody can get sick. You can't do that either.
No, I think it's hard. Like for instance, NAB has not, the conference that I go to probably more than any other one, has not canceled yet.
Vegas is not going to say don't come to Vegas.
Well,
even if they should.
My guess is the commitment for LVCC is between $10 and $20 million. It's not like, and so they have to have LVCC release. That's Las Vegas Convention Center release NAB before NAB is going to be able to release the exhibitors. Like there's otherwise they'll never
like
have another
Domino's.
NAB. So having people cancel, like so Ross is canceled, AJA is canceled. There's a bunch of other people that are not going. In fact, the Ross one is a 40 by 40 booth in the center of the South Hall.
What's Ross? I've never heard of them. What do they
They
make?
do. They're kind of between. No, they'll hate. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble from Ross to say this, but they are between Black Magic and Grass Valley. So Grass Valley is like
So the little higher
super
level
high-end,
than Black Magic, a little lower end than Grass Valley.
more expensive in price range,
Yeah.
and definitely there's a lot of feature sets that they have that are really good, but they're usually considered like, oh, I can't afford a Grass Valley, so I'll, then they go to Ross, and Ross has got really great stuff, but they're kind of in that niche, and they're really big, and they do a lot of infrastructure.
How many people go to WWDC? Because Santa Clara
It's
says
like 100. I want to say 150,000.
okay, so that
120,000,
definitely is
150,000.
above the cap. They say anything more than 1,000 people is banned. So that pretty much.
WWDC?
Pardon me?
There's
sorry.
7,000
Did
tickets,
you
and
say-
then there's
Wait,
a
you see
bunch of
WWDC
people
or
without
NAB?
tickets.
NAB
no,
is
WWDC.
120. No,
Yeah.
WWDC is 5,000.
Okay.
But it's
So I think that means whether Apple announces it or not, that means there's no Dub.
well, they've only announced this for a few weeks, and Dub is traditionally in June. So, but the good news is Apple hasn't canceled anything yet because they never announced it.
There's nothing to cancel.
Right.
Yeah,
But that does put a lot of pressure on them. The fact that all these other conferences, Google I/O is just 1 month before, actually just a few weeks before WWDC, and so if Google is saying that out of a plurality, out of an abundance of caution, we're canceling the lots of humans getting together and exchanging handshakes part of it. What does Apple say? That we think that in 2.5 to 3 weeks it's going to be better, or we think that we can organize and run it in a way that is not going to create a health problem. But just like Alex said, they haven't announced anything yet, so they haven't canceled anything yet.
And also, a lot of companies are instituting travel bans, especially the bigger ones. Like, you're just not allowed to travel. They don't want to take on, like, the health. Yes, they're worried about the health, but also the risk of anything happening to you and them being held liable is just a showstopper for them.
Apple.
And just the difficulty of moving people around, whether companies are doing travel bans or not. Just how
All right.
a lot of people are not going to.
I'm going to move through this quickly because otherwise it's going to be the coronavirus show. Apple is giving retail and hourly employees unlimited sick leave. This is something every company in this country should do. I know a lot can't afford to, but that's the right, and Apple certainly can. That's the right thing to do. Hourly employees shouldn't feel like they have to come in and risk, illness, or if they're ill, come in, and that's the real risk because they can't afford not to.
It's especially dangerous for Apple because they've been on this huge open concept design push for a decade. Like everything is open for them.
First coronavirus case with an Apple employee in Ireland on the Cork campus. You reported that one on imore.com with the headline, "Uh-oh."
That's all, Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen Warwick. Well done. Uh-oh. Does he get to write the thing above the headline?
He does.
He's super talented.
He's pretty clever. Yeah. Steven's amazing.
As far as coronavirus-related apps, there's so many people jumping on this. It's a gold mine on Reddit and elsewhere with fake cures and so forth. Facebook. Apple is reportedly, this is from Business Insider, rejecting any coronavirus-related app rather than trying to figure out whether this is valid or not if it doesn't come from an established health organization.
Turns out that if you cover yourself in honey, people will stay away from you, but not.
Is somebody actually saying that, or is that you just made that up?
Made that up.
I would be surprised,
YouTube is demonetizing anything with coronavirus, whether you say it or show the name. So they want to de-emphasize that as well.
Demand in China for iPhones cut in half, down to 500,000 last month.
Right.
Yeah. Huawei too. A bunch of the Chinese vendors as well are reporting significant sales down.
Let's talk about the next iPhone. There, was rumor Apple would make an announcement this month for the whatever it is, the iPhone 9, the SE2.
I think you have problems with production. You also have problems with just going to China to meet with people.
Right.
So I think
and also, John Prosser was reporting that they don't want to launch an iPhone and have a bunch of people flood a store right now. So they're happier to wait while hopefully the economy will warm up again, but also it'll be safer for people to start going in and buying again.
I have to say, go ahead.
I'm just saying, if the market is already down, why introduce a new phone if you have the option of delaying it for a time when people are in the summer? People are going to be more apt to go out and spend a lot of that money that they have not been spending in lots of activities in the past 3 months. So yeah, this is just smart.
The Today at Apple sessions in the San Francisco Bay Area and Seattle stores canceled. Yeah. They also reduced capacity at store events, another way of reducing the risk of infection. Apple had already pulled out of South by Southwest. They've also canceled the premieres, the Apple TV premieres they were planning at South by Southwest.
It's been a huge hit. I have a lot of folks that I know that do huge activations at South by Southwest, and they're all running around trying to figure out how.
The economic hit is kind of hard to overestimate. Right. We're seeing ad sales disappear. Right. For Q2.
Which is funny because that's the exact opposite thing you want to do.
This is the time to.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody's going to be listening to a lot more podcasts.
Yeah.
I wish I could convince them of that.
That's what they call leaning back on your skis. You lean back, start losing control.
Yeah. Well, the people do that, though. And I've seen this in other academic downturns. Although I remember in 2008, after the crash, that was when Twit boomed. Because for some reason people started doing a lot of advertising. Maybe they were trying to recover those lost sales.
We doubled for years after that. I mean, because everyone was trying to figure out how to live stream.
Yeah,
which is what they're doing now.
Actually, this is really good for 090, right?
A lot of calls.
I'm sure most of those developer conferences will be live streamed at this point. That's what Google's planning to do with I/O.
Yeah. It's a big opportunity for Microsoft and Google now, especially since they're wisely giving away their higher end video conferencing and live streaming tools for enterprise for free, at least through the summer.
Market has been bad for, another economic thing that doesn't hit everybody, but it does hit some people if you're an investor. Bad for coronavirus, bad for Apple. $100 billion in value lost on Monday. The stock market went down a record amount, 2,000 points. The Dow down 8% slump. That's a lot of value. It's
bad if you have to pull money out. If you can ride through it, it'll be good for you. But it's bad if
and that's the sad thing. I find myself starting to look at I gotta get some liquidity because money's going to be tight, and this is exactly the worst time to try to get liquidity. Right. I would love to let it ride. Hanhai Foxconn says, and I think this is disinformation, we're going to have our plants back to normal this month. I think that's a lot like saying, it's all better, all done.
Right.
I'm bleeding. I'm very badly hurt, but I'm still alive.
I'm alive.
I'm not dead yet. I'm still alive.
Not dead yet.
Not dead yet.
All right. That's the, let's see, did I get it? One more thing coronavirus related. And I didn't realize this. Last week, I showed how to use a Clorox disinfecting wipe to clean your iPhone and said, evidence is that some viruses including coronavirus, can last as long as 9 days on a glass surface. Who knew? But your iPhone, any phone is going to be, you're touching it all the time, a potential source of infection. So disinfect it. Little did I know that actually was not recommended by Apple at the time. Because they were afraid.
But then they saw you and they were like, well,
they said, Leo did it. Because they were feared that the oleophobic coating that resists fingerprints would be destroyed. Apple has changed that. They've added, in fact, by name, Clorox wipes to the list of things you can do with your phone.
Bless Joanna Stern.
And then God bless Joanna Stern, who took a carpal tunnel hit this week. She took an iPhone 8, brand new iPhone 8, taped half of it off, and then wiped the other half with disinfecting wipes 1,095 times. She had a little clicker. 1,095 times. And which she said, well, that's about once a day for 3 years. No disruption of the oleophobic coating at all. Indistinguishable. She said she can't say the same for the bathroom cleaner she used on it. I don't know if she was joking or not, but that was the last line.
Acid.
Yeah, but it's okay to use a Clorox wipe, a disinfecting wipe, or Lysol wipe on your iPhone. Apple says it's okay. And probably a good idea, I never even thought about this, That's the upside of this is we're learning a little bit more about hygiene. We'll be better prepared.
Filthy animals.
Again, 25 to 35 million flu deaths every single year, just as a matter of course. So hopefully this will cut that number down next year.
Next year, yeah. Although if this is anything like the Spanish flu, it is going to come back with a vengeance in the fall if it goes away this summer.
Yeah, no, and next year could be more intense than this year.
Right.
And they're not going to have
no vaccines.
No vaccine until 2021.
Okay, that's enough coronavirus. Thank you for putting up with that. A number of people said, "What is this? The coronavirus report?" But it is impacting, as it is everything else. It's impacting tech heavily, and so and Apple heavily. So we thought we better talk about it. I think there are some people who say, "Oh, it's just." I had a guy call the radio show. Said, "It's all the media. It's all overblown. That's just sensationalistic headlines." I said, "Oh, okay. Are you a physician?" He said, "No, I'm a piano tuner." I said, "Well, thank you for your input."
But 5G is going to kill you. That's something to kill you.
According to the piano tuners, it's nothing to worry about, folks. Okay. We have, actually, there's a lot of news, including massive leaks. I guess it's the beta of iOS 14, and people have been...
Not the beta, one of the internal builds.
Oh, it's not the official beta. It's an internal build leaked out. Should we not do the story?
No, my guess is if it's what I think it is, an internal build leaks out, and because if you're outside Apple, you can't actually load that on a device. They're spelunking through the code to try to see what they can find.
We call it Steve Troughton smithing these days.
Yeah, I mean, fair. He's a trailblazer in reverse engineering. So what they're basically doing is reverse engineering and finding what features they can.
Looking at the source. Well, we'll talk. We'll talk about it. I mean, why not? We may not have this phone, but at least we can see what we're not getting in just a second. Also, a great Jean-Louis Gasset piece on the ARM Mac and how it might be more doable than we thought. That's coming up in just a little bit on MacBreak Weekly. First, a word from our sponsor, LastPass. Just because you're stuck at home doesn't mean you don't need to have better hygiene with your passwords. Password hygiene, that's what we're talking about today. If you're reusing passwords, problem. Just think about it. And by the way, most people do. But the problem is if you reuse a password, if there's a breach on one of those sites, then all of the sites have been compromised. LastPass is the way to fix it. A password vault that generates long, strong, unique passwords for every single place you visit, every app you use, keeps track of them so you don't have to, keeps them safe, encrypted on your device. No one can see it, not even LastPass. No one gets your master password. And if you're in business, you know your employees don't have good hygiene. You gotta do it for them. That's why we use LastPass Enterprise here at Twit. We, in fact, give LastPass as a benefit of employee to every single employee because we want them to have that security. Securing every access point in your business, you know that. It's critical. But it's challenging for IT to improve security without having employees get upset or impacting productivity. That's what LastPass does so well. It gives you a great balance of strong security that's also easy for your employees to use and manage. And that's key. If it's not easy to use, they won't use it. So you got to have something they like. With LastPass, employees benefit from a solution that's easy to use, and yet your IT department maintains control over every login. LastPass has a number of solutions for businesses. LastPass Identity that unifies password management. Single sign-on is fantastic. Over 1,200 SSO apps. With by the way, with training for each of them so your employees can learn how to use them. And then they love it because it's so easy. It's easier than passwords. And biometric multi-factor authentication. I love that because it means it's not just the Face ID or the Touch ID or the dongle. It's geolocation, it's IP addresses, a bunch of extra information that authenticates that person is the person they say they are. Adaptive authentication combines biometric and context to prove a user's identity. No more passwords because you can use these biometrics and integrations and SSO to streamline access to applications without ever typing a single character. That's honestly, that's one of the best things you could do for security. And with LastPass, you could secure every access point, from web applications to workstations to the VPN, manage every access point in your business. You deploy it instantly. You have absolute control. You can set over 100 password policies. We say, password length. We also require a second factor, but that's at the organizational level. And you can even have different requirements for different departments and different users. LastPass is the gold standard. In fact, they have world-class third-party security firms conducting routine audits all the time to verify that their service and their infrastructure is absolutely secure. That's what you need.
After 10 years now of using LastPass.
Me too.
I just can't imagine operating without it.
It's the first thing I install on
personally
every
or in the company.
Yeah.
Being able to like send someone access to a page but not send them the password and just put it in a folder where they can.
I love that. They just get dots.
They just get dots, and also with everything now, I don't try to think up a new password. I just give me a 20 character hash with all the bells and whistles, the special characters and numbers and everything else. And then I just have to remember, I have a lot of security around, logging in. It's good.
LastPass.com/twit. Start your journey today. Find out how they can help you in your business. I just put Linux on this Windows machine. Of course, the first thing I install, LastPass. It really it solves the whole thing.
Yep.
Gets it all done. LastPass.com/twit. Okay, let's get some Apple news. Do you want to talk? Should we talk about the developer? Because I think that there's a lot to say. This is iOS 14. Mouse support, first-class mouse support.
We should just point out though that this is an iOS 14, basically like an alpha, like an internal build and this stuff may or may not be present when it actually goes into beta.
Yeah, I think the only lesson is this: Apple's looking at it, they've coded it in, but it doesn't mean it'll come out in 14.
Right.
They may say after trying it, this isn't good. It may never come out.
And we don't want it to. If it's buggy, please don't do that this year.
Right. But it does show you what Apple's thinking about.
Yeah.
We had seen a rumor that there'd be new smart keyboards with trackpads. That apparently is validated in the code. And mouse cursor support is first class has moved out of accessibility. So I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I want a mouse on my iPad.
Oh, that's huge.
Arrow keys on your Mac, Leo.
If you're going to justify $1,000 for an iPad Pro, and for a lot of I was able to justify $1,000 for an iPad Pro as is, you really are going to have to beef up. You're really going to have to make it functionally and convenience-wise competitive with any notebook you can buy for $500 or $600. And the ability to navigate between apps, the ability to take advantage of having multiple apps open at the same time just by simply moving your focus from one place to another and also moving data from one place to another. The absence of a trackpad is just absolutely huge. And if Apple decides to do it in a way that's not just not just, hey, this is an accessibility feature that we decided to just cut, copy, and paste it into the main UI, if they do it better than that, that is going to be a huge move forward for the iPad. And also, dare I say it, a step forward for iOS's ability to one day supplant the Mac as a consumer desktop operating system.
I mean, it can't do that until you have Pointer. That's for sure.
I mean, there'll always be pro. There'll always be pro, but in terms of people coming in to spend $1,000 to $1,500 for a Mac or for a computer, this is what will allow Apple 2 or 3 or 4 years from now to say, hey, well, we do have a MacBook Pro, but those are mostly for people who are doing 4K and 8K and 16K editing. But maybe you should just take a look at this iPad instead. Yeah.
Oh, and I'm using
Go ahead.
more. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Renee, and then you, Alex.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, my understanding is that this started off sincerely as an accessibility feature where they had people who just had trouble using the multi-touch, and they have access to mouse and trackpad, so they enabled it as part of assistive touch, almost like an addition to the Switch system. And they didn't even announce it at the keynote. It wasn't one of the features that Craig Federighi went over when he announced iPadOS. It was really meant. It came from the accessibility team, was meant as an accessibility feature, but the idea of this is also living in the main OS team, and this is a different implementation than the one that's baked into accessibility, and it's meant to be a first-class citizen. And the thinking is sort of like, Steve Jobs wouldn't allow arrow keys on the original Mac because he didn't want people to just use arrow keys and never learn the mouse, and they didn't want to have a mouse or a trackpad on the original iPad, and that's fine as long as it's a tablet. But once you make a keyboard and once you can dock it into that keyboard, you have to make that experience absolutely first class. And this sounds like it does that. Like the mouse pointer appears when you use the trackpad, disappears when you're not using it, doesn't get in your way, but it lets you do pretty much what you need to do with the trackpad. And if they can nail that, I think you don't get the toaster fridge, which is going to come back and bite them in the butt, but you get the best of both worlds.
Tap to click, tap with 2 fingers to right click. Love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the issue is for a lot of the precision stuff that I do, I still find that's why I go back to the computer. Like, and it would eliminate. There's probably 30% of my work that still requires an iMac or a Mac or a MacBook or something for me to do it, and half of that. I mean, I can't say that I would be completely done, but the last bits would be just apps that aren't running on the iPad. You know, a truly fully functional Photoshop and a truly those types of things, Final Cut and Motion and those types of things. So, so I think that that mouse is key to making that work.
You agree, Lori? You're a mouse.
Yeah, and there's also I actually do use the Bridge keyboard with trackpad all the time on my MacBook Pro right now, and I love using
one?
it. So yeah.
You got an early release because they announced that they're because of coronavirus they're not going to be able to get those out.
Yeah. I have a pre-release build that they sent me for review.
You like it? It works well.
I love using it. It's very clunky. Don't get me wrong.
Because of that, because the target, the bullseye target, and it disappears and all that weird.
Yeah.
Because that's the old way of doing it, or the current way.
Exactly. But I use it and I love it because if I'm using a keyboard, just like Renee is talking about, if I'm using a keyboard, it's natural for me to want to use a trackpad or a mouse to click and do all that kind of stuff. And not having to reach my hand to the screen to do that stuff has been really pleasant for me. So I do think that's a great idea. And I also think in addition to just being better for the pros using an iPad, it's also, you got to consider, Apple's kind of original idea with the iPad was this idea of getting rid of computers and how, we're moving out of desktop and into laptops and mobility and things like that. And here's a way for somebody to get into the Apple environment in a computer-ish way without needing to buy a full computer. So you don't have to spend $1,000 on an iPad. You can spend $399 on an iPad mini and also get to use a trackpad or mouse. So you're combining the comfort that people have of using a mouse or trackpad with a tablet and also allowing people to enter the Apple ecosystem at a much less expensive rate by giving them a little bit of both, a little bit of the computer that you're familiar with, a little bit of the tablet and Apple world that you're getting into. So,
hey, Beatmaster's got a good idea. What about a dual boot tablet that can be Mac OS and iOS?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I don't think
there was a great comment on the 9 to 5 article when they published it. The guy's like, you know what? I don't care, but I hope all you traditional nerds are super happy about it.
Yeah, I feel so. Apple's been very clear that they're never going to put touch on Mac OS, and I feel like they don't have the same sense of purity on iOS.
They say that, but it's really a resource problem. Like again, Microsoft, it took them 3 years.
So you're saying they would if they could?
Well, so Microsoft did not have they don't have a successful TouchOS, so they had to take their engineers and say, we're going to graft touch onto Windows. Apple has a super successful touch-based operating system, and it's hard to justify spending 3 years taking their non-touch operating system and making it touch when they feel like they could just spend those 3 years making iPadOS good enough that you won't ask for it on the Mac anymore.
It depends. I mean,
no particular order here. I'm just going to run through because there's like 100 things in this.
So many.
It's not just source code. There's also icons. There's icons in here for over-the-ear headphones.
Lori's so happy.
Those are presumably noise canceling, kind of a side companion to the AirPod Pros.
And evidently they're in black and white.
What are they going to call them? Studio Pods?
Studio Pods.
Well, they're Beats, right? I mean, really all it is relabeled.
No, I think they're Apple branded.
No. I would argue that they're not going to just make a copy of Beats and put an Apple logo on it. They're going to do something different. Otherwise, why would they do it at all? Right. So I don't know what it's going to look like or feel like or sound like, but I'm thinking it's not going to be anything like Beats at all. It'll be a completely different headphone experience.
I agree with you 100% because one of the things that really justifies the idea of Apple doing a really premium $300 or $400 over the ear noise canceling headphone is Sony's success. They don't necessarily own this market, but boy, the aspirational brand for I'm in an open plan office, but I want everybody to know that if we had individual offices, I would have a corner office because look at these Sony headphones I have, and those cost $350 to $400.
The new Bose, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that anybody. It was hard to get people who are not into who are not into Beats as a brand to say, I'm going to spend $400 on a pair of really, really exclusive, not only does it sound great, but it's going to make me feel good headphones. Whereas Apple doesn't the Apple brand won't say these are a pair of cheap plastic headphones that have artificial weights in them to make them feel more expensive, that are super, super poisonously heavy with bass and annoy everybody in the environment because it leaks sound everywhere. So that's an interesting thing for Apple to do. I think it would definitely be an Apple thing. And also realize the EarPods, we haven't heard the EarPods since they tried to make us forget that wires were a thing. So I don't know, maybe you call it the EarPods Pro.
EarPods.
I think there's probably up to about $600 or $700 that Apple could kind of live in. When you get over that,
Alex, don't do that.
Oh boy.
When you go over that,
No, it's true though.
but I'm just saying when you go over that, you're getting into a world of headphones that are pretty competitive.
They're different.
They're technically,
but
they're
the
very,
Bose QCs are what, 300?
Yeah.
30.
But I could see Apple saying, well, we're going to take some of the restraints off our engineers and make them that
700s.
much nicer to do it, and maybe have a version. I mean, they already have things that are in the 250, 300. They have They also have Beat stuff. They have all kinds of stuff in that area. Having something where they let the engineers run a little bit and have it be a little. I just can see that as a possibility. I'm not saying they should.
No, I agree with you.
They just spent $1 billion on
these
that lab for
Bose
nothing.
these Bose noise canceling 700s, which is their top of the line, sell very well at $400.
Yeah.
And so that's the market. But you're right. I have Hi-Fi Man that are much more expensive.
Right.
Those are audiophile.
Well, you can spend unlimited amounts. Like there were like
believe me,
$15,000
I have.
headphones that require the entire stack
Well, I
of
haven't spent that much.
drivers.
Right.
Well, and I have to
And you
admit,
look like a Cyberman.
I had a.
The other factor is that if they're wireless headphones, you are dealing with, you can't play uncompressed music on them
you're
because the
playing crappy.
Bluetooth is going to be right. So I think that sets the
Does
ceiling
Apple
for
do
how much they can call them.
aptX?
Oh God! What if they don't do Bluetooth and they make it just AirPlay for
There
this?
you
And
go.
they say we want
AirPlay.
the sound quality,
Their
and then
Wi-Fi.
everyone loses their mind.
Then how much would you pay? That's interesting. That's actually a good idea.
That would definitely change things.
It's Wi-Fi direct, but everyone with a non-AirPlay device would lose their minds.
But you're begging everybody to say we tested these in every single situation, and we found not only dogs were able to hear the difference, but only a specific brand of dog that has never been exposed to loud noises. in their
Apple
life.
doesn't do aptX on the iPhone, but that is supposedly a high fidelity Bluetooth codec, so they could do that. I'm not an expert.
But it's
on
like
this.
high fidelity, like chocolatey. Like they can't use the official name
Yeah, it's
chocolate.
not
so they have to
really
say
high
chocolate.
fidelity. Yeah,
They
so
can
Wi-Fi
say
Direct
CD
would
quality,
be,
which is good enough.
Wi-Fi
Yes.
Direct would be, I think. Yeah, right. AirPlay's pretty good.
It would be amazing.
It's enough bandwidth to be good anyway.
Maybe they do both.
But-
if they can detect another Apple device, they shift you into Wi-Fi Direct.
The sheeple drool, as our chat room says.
Well, and the only thing I'd say is this comes back to
Accurate.
arguing that Apple should be building their own Wi-Fi routers, is because they have all this stuff that all these things are connected to, and then they've externalized this capability of how you connect them all. Like, it just seems crazy.
There's a codec from aptX now called HD, aptX HD. They claim 24-bit.
Yeah, they have aptX HD. They have aptX low latency for using with audio and video. They keep, and a lot of these can be done just by pushing out firmware updates. The Sony Walkman that I recommended a few weeks ago, the previous model of it, I thought that the reason why you'd want this new version instead of the old version was that, hey, the new version has this new version of aptX on it. The old version, however, just got a firmware update to get the new version of aptX HD. So there's a lot of wiggle room there.
Pono player be happy.
Make Neil Young happy, no matter make him feel like
Nothing's going to make Neil happy. That's I'm sorry.
Not even live music. It's too
Unless you
compressed.
can have a lake with a boat in the middle, a speaker on one side,
In the barn.
and a speaker on the other side.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You're not going to. Neil's not going to.
I really wish I could hear that.
New iPad Pro will include, according to this is again 9 to 5's Max analysis of iOS 14 leak, triple lens camera, and time of flight sensor. So you have a 3D sensor, a wide angle lens, an ultra wide lens, a telephoto lens. Big update. Still one generation behind the iPhone. But a time of flight
It would be
means
ahead.
it would be ahead.
Yeah, because this iPhone doesn't have time of flight. The next
Oh, that's
one's getting
right.
it.
That's right.
And of course, that's gonna be great for AR.
AR, that's what that is, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
An iPad is would be an interesting AR tool. The only thing is you have to hold it, but it's got that nice
Big
screen.
viewfinder, Leo.
Yeah.
Such a big viewfinder.
And I'm not sure I really want to encourage people to be taking pictures with their iPad, but since they're doing it, at least give them a
What
good
if they
camera.
throw a blanket over their head like an old timey-wimey camera? Is that okay then? Is that socially acceptable?
Magnesium. Also, we also have that rumor that they're going to or that announcement that they're supporting hardware digital flashes. So maybe a digital like magnesium flash.
Oh yeah.
But the ability. Yeah, but that's a really big deal, especially as the iPad Pro is being used a lot for illustrators. The ability to take a picture and then work on it with your stylus, either just simply by editing raw or by simply using that as the basis of a fake watercolor.
Good point.
There's a lot of potential there that hasn't been used yet.
Just please, folks, don't take your iPad Pro to concerts.
And also if you look at like what Tilt 5 is doing, where they have gameplay that is being driven by AR, you can see there's a lot of possibilities with an iPad mounted somewhere or looking over a table and having nothing on the table but everyone playing a game that's all
I think they should make a round steering wheel shaped iPad. It'll be amazing.
Just put a mount in it. You just mount it. There's like a little square opening, and you just go.
Hey, if they weren't going to make a watch with a round screen, I don't think there are any chances they're going to make an iPad with a round screen.
Okay, you get one of those Nintendo attachments, right, that goes around.
Yeah.
Porthole, the Apple porthole.
Porthole. iPhone 9. Well, again, not the name 9, but whatever that next iPhone. There is some code there that implies it'll support Touch ID. And Micah Sargent had explained this to me earlier on iOS Today, express transit capabilities. What is express transit, Renee?
That's when you use it at, for example, like the metro station or the bus station or the train station. They don't want you to have to hold up the line as you're going through by like Face IDing it or Touch IDing it. So you can turn on a setting. It's not enabled by default, but you can turn on a setting, and then as you walk by, it just pings the device and charges you.
Oh, so you don't even have to pull out your phone? You just...
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Is that Bluetooth? It must be Bluetooth LE.
It's...
NFC,
I think
maybe?
it's Bluetooth LE.
NFC
I don't know if
has
it's
to be
close enough for
closer. It
NFC.
can't be NFC.
Oh.
Or RFID. It'd have to be Bluetooth LE, I think. Now, your watch, you can use your watch for those too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this would be even better. You don't have to pull anything out.
I can see you get to a point at like Whole Foods where they just go, "Should we charge you?" And you go,
Well, the iPhones do that now. It's just only the Face ID iPhones do it. The original Touch ID, so the original Touch ID ones don't. So this is adding the capability in the hopes that people who have real old Touch ID iPhones will update if they're frequent transit users.
Yeah.
Weird.
That's a huge thing.
Is it?
I'll just say that I have my first trip to New York since they put in, at least in Midtown, tap to pay at the turnstiles. The ability to simply not have to worry about it will never. My card never scans through right the first way, and I never know if I've got the $275 left. And if I'm just a little bit under, I've got to spend more than I need to get it on there. Just the ability to not have that hassle, and just know that if I just simply skim my phone, it works. I wish that the MBTA in Boston worked that way.
You have to do this from the wallet because you have to choose a card that is tied to Express Transit. So you go to Settings, select Wallet and Apple Pay, scroll down. You'll see Express Travel Card. This is a new section named Travel Cards. Click on that, select which card you would like to be your Apple Travel Card, and now it'll work. And this is the London Transit, an article about it working in the tube. Yeah, Oyster, right? Yeah.
And I would assume it's encrypted because otherwise people could just be having a box in their laptop bag on the subway and simply be skimming $275 off of you just by walking
I think
to the
it's
back.
single token still too.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's an interesting security challenge.
It's a real problem. It's a bigger problem like for security access inside buildings, because you really can just sit like if there's like a bench near the entrance to a big company's building, you can just simply sit there with a laptop bag. Actually, the lockpicking lawyer actually built a rig to do this to demonstrate the vulnerability. If there's no encryption between the hailing device and the receiving device, you just simply sit there, play Pokemon, whatever you want to do, and then when you get home, you have this wonderful spreadsheet filled with passcodes that you can then just burn onto brand new RFID cards, because the cards are simply designed to respond, that are not secured, are designed to simply respond with an access code whenever they're tickled by the radio. So it's a huge problem, and that's why anytime that there is a truly non-contactless payment system, you have to make sure that you understand that, is this an encrypted system or is this an unencrypted system?
Apple, we knew from iOS 13 was planning to release a new Apple TV box. Now we know from iOS 14 there'll also be a new Apple TV remote.
Don't make it look like a bagel.
What if it
Please don't make
turns out
look
that
like a
I
bagel.
hate the new Apple TV remote?
Then you're screwed.
Because I
wait
like
4
the
years.
current one and everyone hates it.
Yeah. No one likes the current Apple TV remote.
No.
I like it. I'm the only person in the
only
world
one.
that likes the Apple TV remote.
What is it
I
you
don't know.
like about it?
It's a tiny little trackpad. Like, how great is that?
Yeah.
To me, that's really cool.
What it means is you're constantly changing things with that. It's so easy to lose that I put it in this pocket, which means my front shirt pocket, which means that the channel's changing randomly, the thing's scrolling randomly.
What I'm kind of amazed by is that inside that they just didn't put a little like buzzer or beep or something so that I can just say I can just go find my remote and
scream
and it just beeps.
I'm here.
Yeah, but
It could do all that. It just needs a speaker. That's all it needs.
I know.
Or at least
that would make me really happy.
Or at least put some sort of even minimum, put some sort of a divot on one end of it so that you can by feel know what end of it you're holding on to.
Well, that's why they put that
that's
menu.
why it's matte.
That menu circle. Yeah. Oh, you can.
And
the problem is you're feeling for the mat and you just change the channel.
Yeah. But and also, like, I
can't believe you like it, Lori. There's something wrong.
I can tell the HomePod to do
I
stuff on the
can't
Apple
believe
TV that I
everybody
can't get the
hates
Apple TV to do.
Well, there's room. Would you agree there's room for improvement?
I would say if they never changed the Apple TV
my
remote,
God.
I would be perfectly happy with it.
You're the only one.
I can say that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm the only person in the whole world that feels this way. Yeah.
It's like Lisa, my wife, says she loves the MacBook keyboard. And, the little thin. I said,
horrible.
Lisa, doesn't that hurt you? The finger?
She doesn't write.
I love it.
She's not writing. Maybe she's
No.
not, she's writing
Lisa
long
had
form.
carpal tunnel at one point. She uses a keyboard so much.
Oh, right.
No.
I just want the bottom, but I just want one bottom centered button so I know which end is up. That's all I want. Just have the home button be the bottom where the normal home button on an iPhone goes. Have it in the middle. I'll never confuse which way is up again. I'll be happy.
As long as they keep the remote app on the phone and the watch, I'm happy. I don't have to use that silly thing.
No, but the thing that I dislike is if you don't have the remote, you can't use your Apple TV. But I can use my HomePod by just saying, "Yo, Jimbo, turn on Avengers Endgame on my Apple TV," and it does it. But the Apple TV won't listen to me. I have to tell the home. It's like it's not talking to me. It's shunning me. I have to tell the HomePod to talk to the Apple
pod.
TV, and then the Apple TV talks to the HomePod, which then responds to me.
Talk to the pod.
It's like an abusive relationship.
I will not deal with you. Talk to the
know.
pod. Also, these AirTag trackers, which have been rumored for a long time. There's a code in there, including the marketing name AirTags, and you'll be able to set them up in bulk through iOS. Oh, most important, there'll be a user replaceable battery.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
That would have been a non-starter. Apple would have had a hard time. I'm not talking about the money of, hey, when this dies, you're gonna have to buy a new one, but basically saying, hey, we're happy to have a tag that has to be thrown away.
Yeah.
And putting all this stuff into a landfill as opposed to this little button cell that lasts 3 days before the apocalypse is how long one of these batteries lasts.
But will they be rechargeable? Like when they made those rechargeable batteries for the mouse for like 10 minutes, you could put rechargeable Apple rechargeable batteries in your mouse or trackpad. Then let me put a little tiny battery in there, but then we stick it on top of my wireless charging pad.
That is one thing I have to say the Siri remote does right.
Fine product, Renee.
The one thing the Siri remote does right is it has a little lightning connector on it, and you can charge it, and it lasts for a long time after you charge it. HomeKit in iOS 14 will recognize your face, adjust lighting based on the time of day, and more. How is it going to recognize your face? Through the phone, I guess.
Yeah.
This is no. This is HomeKit Secure Video, which means the cameras will be able to recognize people based on their appearance. They say it will be kept on device. Apple is notorious about being careful not to send your face recognition stuff to the home office. And there'll be a night shift for the lights, which is, I guess, good. A lot of us do that anyway.
does that already. Yeah.
That's clever. All right. Owners of Apple TV set-top box will be able to configure an audio output that will be used by default.
Yes, thank goodness.
So you could say your HomePod will be the...
Yeah, because previously, like, you could set it up that if anything else went to the HomePod, it destroyed it, and you had to set it all up again. This way you could say, I want to dedicate this HomePod to my TV.
Nice. And Micah thought that maybe Apple would do him a solid and put out a sound bar.
Please, yes, please.
Yeah.
An Atmos soundbar.
Yeah, because the HomePod, it sounds good, but it's not the right shape for a TV.
And it doesn't have top-facing speakers,
Right.
which limits its
No Atmos.
positional audio. Yeah.
No Atmos. Oh my God, I'm only about halfway through this.
Coffee, Leo.
iOS
Full
14
espresso.
code reveals the new Apple Watch. Apple Watch will have a blood oxygen detector.
And
I think that's about time for that one.
Yeah. Because it could do that before. I mean, it probably could do that because if it can see your pulse, it probably could tell. I don't know. And it will also have a tachometer. The new watch face Infograph Pro will have a tachometer, which means
So old school.
Yeah, it's very old school. It means if you're an airline pilot, you can calculate how much fuel you'll need. Something. I don't know. Here's a tachometer on a Baume & Mercier watch. According to Baume & Mercier, what you do is I've never understood these tachometers. They're just, to me,
it measures how tacky something is.
That's
Leo.
an ornament.
I have a hard time understanding how they would put that on the watch.
Yeah, really. This is a physical
It's just gonna be
dial
a
on
little-
these. Yeah.
Well, it would be maybe like the way the Compass app is, or at least maybe the way the Compass app used to be before they made it so much more digital.
Silly. Well, it's a style thing, probably. I mean, if you're an airline pilot calculating the necessary fuel on your tachometer, please stop. I've talked to pilots who say they did use it for that, or that was the intent, or something like that. Siri voices customizable by developers.
I pity the food that want me to turn off your lights.
I was sad to learn that they did not have an eternal contract with John Legend on the Google Voice. John Legend will be leaving in a week.
I just want Swedish Chef, where all it says that's it. It doesn't. All responses are like burp, burp.
It might as well be.
I will turn off your lights.
Let me see
Google
what I found
Translate
on the
is
web
the
about
step.
that.
No, it doesn't even say. No,
So if it means, if it says customizable by developer, does that mean that Siri's the native Siri in the system is going to be what we already have? But then, if an app is using Siri,
Developers
I'm
can add voice synthesis to
Like a
their
voice
own
pack,
apps. So I am using, in honor of Renee Ritchie, I am using on Siri right now the South African voice.
Yeah, man, it's great, I
That's
really
great.
appreciate it. For years and years, I've been asking you to do that.
Do you use it?
I go between the Irish because of Tony Stark and Friday, and the South African one because my parents find it endlessly amusing.
It doesn't, to me, it doesn't sound like it's South African that much.
Ich meine, in South Africa, the Siri sounds way, way better than it does on the Apple iPhone.
I have no idea what he just said. So you could, in theory, have an app that had its own voice, but it would be for the app. Yeah, it wouldn't change Siri in general. It would just be for the app. Voice Provider is the developer framework.
I talked to TomTom a long time ago, and they were making like Homer Simpson and James Earl Jones packs, and they just kept saying, in England, everybody just wants the male British voice, and in America, everybody just wants the female British voice, and that's the only ones that really move.
That makes sense, actually. That's my favorite voice, the female British voice.
I would be changing voices all the time just for fun, just to have something different to listen to.
Oh, actually, I thought I had the South African. I have the Indian voice on here.
Your virtual assistant.
I love it.
I'm Siri, your virtual assistant.
That's British.
I'm Siri, your virtual assistant.
And I like that because I feel like
Siri, your virtual assistant.
there's the South African. I forgot I had the Indian. No wonder it didn't sound South African.
Ich mean, I can't turn on the lights for you now, You better check the web.
I love it when you do that accent. For those who don't know, Renee was born and raised, like Elon Musk, in South Africa.
I spoke that way until I was in grade school, I guess.
Major accessibility features, Alipay, Apple Pay, wallpaper app, integration, and more. I don't even know. Read the articles at 9 to 5 Mac. Oh, I forgot to mention, I did. I talked about the blood oxygen detection feature. Yeah, that's in an iPhone.
Kids mode.
14's code snippet. Oh, yeah, kids mode, where
School
parents can
mode.
lock it down That's cool.
And also set it up based on their iPhone. So if the kids don't have an iPhone, but they want them to have an Apple Watch, they can set up a child watch on their iPhone.
I think that's a really good thing.
That's great.
Yeah. School mode is another really, really big thing. It would be great if it would extend to iPhones as well. The ability to say during classroom hours, I'm going to limit you to just receiving emergency text from your mom or your dad. You can't use it for text messaging. You can't use it for other things.
So this was the one that I thought was most surprising. Apple doesn't really change the user interface on iPhone very often. Springboard hasn't. The last update was folders, I think. Apparently, they're looking at a list mode. So you'll be able, instead of seeing the icons on the front of the phone, you'll see a list view. It'll include a list of all application icons, making it easier for users to see all their apps at once. Several different sorting options. You'll be able to filter applications that currently have unread notifications, for example. Recently used. Smart suggestions powered by Siri.
The list views, they did that on the Apple Watch because nobody could figure out carousel, so they gave you the ability to toggle it into.
Oh, so yeah, we already do have that on the Apple Watch. That's right. In fact, I use that because the carousel is like the worst user interface.
It's like a random app generator.
It's like, what the hell is this dot cloud? So it would be, you think it'll be kind of like on my Apple Watch. The list
but
view.
with the ability to change the sort order in much better ways that also take better advantage of the larger screen.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part with the watch. Like I realize the way I use the watch, I don't really care what apps are on it. It's like I don't look for them.
Same.
They appear when I need them, and I don't ever really never interacting like, where is that app? It just pops up when I'm using it. I think a lot of people are like that. I mean, I don't think
it's function based, not app based.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if you go to, no matter what your smartwatch is, if you go to the smartwatch to launch an app and solve a problem, that's probably a problem with the design of the watch, because it really shouldn't, unless you're starting a counter, unless you're starting a fitness thing, it really should not be a place where you focus your attention for more than 5 seconds.
Also in the iOS 14 leak, a new augmented reality app codenamed Gobi. This claims the report. Actually, I should go to the 9 to 5, give them because they're the ones who did all this work. Gobi will allow users to get more information about the world around them by using a QR code-like system. So you could I don't know what, you could read a QR code and then see more. That's, you see that all the time. There's T-shirts where it shows the anatomy of the body or a dinosaur in motion and stuff like that. So that's not new to augmented reality. There's some sort of phony coding in there that lets you signal it. I think, is there anything? Oh, sleep app in the new Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Finally. Anything I missed?
And a new fitness app.
New fitness app? I didn't see that one. Okay, new fitness app. Let's see. This is
And pencil support.
Seymour. The new fitness app is called Seymour. And those are some of the exercises you'll be able to do, including rolling a log up a hill, crushing grapes.
We're going to find out how litigious Peloton really is.
Are these the oh yeah, that is a Peloton, isn't it? And then doing ballet.
Dancing.
So, yeah, dancing.
The one that had me
Doing
super excited
moshing,
too is the
that- I
ability.
think
Mosh pit. That's the mosh pit.
There's a mosh pit. Yeah. I
That's
think the
clearly
third
disco.
one in is probably the mosh pit.
be dancing.
The thing that I think that I'm surprised that we haven't seen faster integration. We see people experimenting with it, but fast integration between the phone or the watch and exercise equipment, where it keeps track of everything. It keeps track of your reps, your weights.
Gym kit.
And it's not. We've been talking about that for a lot of us have been talking about it for
There are
15
apps
years.
that do that.
But the
Well,
problem
they
is you
have
have to
gym
get the
kit, but they
equipment.
haven't been adopted.
The gym equipment has to do it. There's apps that do it, but what you want is I want to walk up and not know anything. So
Yeah.
once we get to a point where your watch or your phone, most preferably your watch, is totally tied into the exercise equipment, it means that it can change my workout. It can change what kind of workout I'm doing. It says, do you know how to do this exercise? And if you don't, it shows you a little video. And then it keeps track of what weights you set it to, and it keeps track of how many reps. So it makes the calculation of what the weight should be next time.
They have the beginnings of that because they have GymKit, but just almost no equipment integrated.
Exactly. I'm just surprised because I think that's like when a high-end gym starts doing that, it's going to be a big deal because you're going to have a much better workout.
I'd love that.
Because a lot of us don't rotate enough. We don't rotate our exercises enough and maintain muscle confusion.
The reason a gym might be slow to do that is because they make a lot of money on trainers who do that for you. And and so, that
I would invest in a home version of that though. If
Bowflex has
if GymKit came to the home, I would
great.
spend the extra few $100s to have that equipment that supports GymKit, which also connects to my phone and lets me track that stuff on my activity app. I think that would be really smart to make it more not just in the gym, but in your house.
Yeah, Bowflex has a hit version of that, and they have dumbbells that kind of talk back to your phone, but it's not a complete solution, And they have the right machinery. So like the Revolution, which is what I have at home.
That's the one where you change the weight by twisting a knob.
No, you have these little weights but they're just springs that you add to it. But the mechanism would be really easy for them to automate like that.
And they have a Swedish chef voice, and it's hard to.
But yeah, so I think that would. The issue is I think you'd have if in a gym like that, they may not make more money on the trainers, but what they would make money on is that you would never leave. Like until other gyms had it. Like if you're a high-end gym,
no, it's a good way to win.
Like you would be totally
customers.
locked in. There was no one would ever go back to a gym that it would feel like you're going back to cave world.
I think that's the trend, actually. If you look at SoulCycle and Peloton and these other smart-enabled devices, that this is the trend.
And it's so much that it can. Because the thing is your watch knows what your heart rate is. It knows, it knows all these things about
together.
you,
and it knows what you did last night and yesterday, and
all these things. And so it could really create a really tight tie to how people get in shape.
Yeah. On top of everything else, you trust that you've already decided to trust Apple with that data. So it's not the last thing you want to do is, hey, I've just signed up for this fly-by-night gym, and yes, I'm going to make sure it has access to every single piece of health data that I have.
Right.
And no.
Renee, how many people have blank screen issues on iPad Airs? I see that.
Before we go on, Leo, can we just because the one thing that I'm really excited about is Apple Pencil as a first-class citizen.
Oh yes.
So any text field you can just write into it, and it will turn. It is so Newton. I love it. I want it now, but I will wait until June.
You know what I want is
it will recognize your handwriting in a text field and convert it. Wow.
If you're using your pencil, it sucks to have to put it down, putting out the virtual keyboard, lose half the screen, start typing, put it away, pick your pencil up again. Just let me write.
But people have such bad handwriting. I don't know. That's a challenge.
But it will bring it back. It's like virtual assistants required us to relearn diction. This is going to require us to relearn penmanship.
I just want to be able to write.
If you're going to have the machine learning models learn how to read a doctor's handwriting, you got to start the training sooner rather than later.
I just want to be able to write over my text and notes. That's all. Like I'd be happy, because right now anything you do with your pencil has to live in its own space, and the text lives in its own space. And I'm like, I want to type.
You can't annotate text.
You can't draw over text or around it.
That's terrible. You can't proofread.
Well, you can't proofread, and also if you're just thinking about stuff, you might text stuff and then draw little things down the side, and you can't do both of those things at the same time, and it's really annoying.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be nice. So that's also potentially.
No, I have no idea. That's
and by the way, a tip of the hat to Karsten, because all of this came in this morning while I was doing iOS today, so he had to scramble to add all of this stuff to our
literally added 20 stories to the rundown in about 5 minutes right before the show.
There's one. Well done.
Imagine how hard these news writers had to work to get all these news articles written, too.
I
think we just stay focused on Karsten.
Those people should get a raise, shouldn't they, Lori?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Ben Mayo should get a raise. I mean,
hard work. Yeah, Ben. So, well, I don't. No, I was going to say no. I don't want to talk about it. We don't want to get Ben in trouble. I thought your article on this was kind of interesting in iMore. Apple has changed its review guidelines. Actually, it's Oliver Haslam. So Apple has for a while used notifications as basically as ads, but nobody else has been allowed to do that. Now they're saying you can.
People have done it. It wasn't allowed to be done, but people have done it. Apple had a huge internal argument about it where one team is like, no, it's a bad experience. Another team is, can we please make you money? And literally, depending on who was where at what time, they would get away with it or not, which is not ideal.
So in a way, this is making it better because now the app has to ask permission. And so if you don't say yes, you won't get it. And so that's a good way to split this. And in fact, it's a better way than just banning it out.
I have to. I really like. Well, there's a lot of pop-ups.
Actually,
go ahead, Lori.
This potentially could be a problem, though. A couple of iMore writers have wrote a couple editorials about how they feel about it, and it could be great. You do have to ask permission, but if, for example, I use, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. I use a particular calculator app that I love, and I need notifications turned on so that it will remind me of an event. But then that app starts advertising to me. You don't get to separate advertisement versus the notification.
Right.
So
and what's an ad is difficult to define. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and there's also the issue with people. There's also the issue with people just saying yes to things and not paying attention to what they're doing. So it potentially could have a negative effect on the user experience if there's enough bad actors that are taking advantage of us, like not really paying attention to what we're saying yes to. So it's good, but also there's a lot of controversy about something like this because it potentially could be bad just for us as iPhone users.
I think that if they increase the whole, like maybe not just the first time that you get that notification, or that you say you've been using this for 2 weeks, do you still want those notifications? Because I know that with the location tracking, having
that's really
updated,
an eye opener. Yeah,
it's been really like, why am I letting that thing do that? And I just say no, I don't want to do that, which has been devastating for them, for the app developers, but really good for me. And so, and I think that. I'm fine with them putting ads in it as long as I get to do it. And then the app developer, as long as I get a constant reminder and a way to opt out every 2 weeks or every month or whatever, because then it's really on the onus of the app developer. Because if they start sending me a bunch of ads, I'm just going to be like, I don't want this anymore. I'm just going to turn off. And right now, what I'd probably do is just turn off their notifications, like altogether. Like I just go into the app controls and just go, I don't want from Acme. I don't want that.
But what you'd like to be able to do is in Lori's case, is get the right notifications and have the commercial notifications have a separate setting which you could turn.
And I have to admit, I only let a handful of apps send me notifications because otherwise it's too stressful.
Yeah, I turn them all off and then bit by bit.
I think a lot of us are like that.
Why do you need calculator notifications?
Right.
I've just thrown an idea out there. I don't have a specific thing. I'm just thinking
that sum is 2 plus 2.
We've calculated a larger prize.
I was just thinking, what's something that people would want to do? And I didn't want to throw any good developers under the bus by commenting on that. So I picked the most innocuous thing I could think of.
Good. But you're right. You often do want push notifications. My calendars have to have push notifications, otherwise there's not much use, or reminders. But what you would like to do, and I think this is the right thing to do, is separate ones that are saying, and for $15 more, you could get a better version of this.
Alerts
that should be separate.
Ads.
Right.
Yeah, that should be separate. And so that's the theory anyway.
Which is what they don't want, because they think that you'll just mute all the ads immediately.
Well, of course.
Yep.
Now, this is what I was going to ask you. I have not experienced this. Apparently, third-generation iPad Airs are having blanking screen issues. Apple has issued a service program. Have you heard from readers, anybody, or seen this yourself?
I haven't heard from any readers, nor have I seen anyone on my Twitter feed mention it. But often it's it's a small percentage of users, but at Apple scale, that's hundreds of it's thousands at least on an iPad.
Yeah. So if you have one, a third generation iPad Air that's been blanking out, Apple will fix it for you for free. It's a new service.
And these are all people wonder, why does this issue get a fix and mine doesn't? Why are they fixing keyboards but not graphics cards? And most big companies, these are automated. They have a problem tracking system, and when a number hits a high enough, it alerts them, and they look at it, and then if it gets to a certain number, it's bring it in and we'll fix it if it breaks. If it gets to a higher number, it's bring it in now and we'll fix it immediately. If it gets to an even higher number, it's like, we're gonna just take that back here, take this one instead. It's all automated.
This is kind of a scary one. A former Apple tech support staffer stole the identities of multiple billionaires, including Houston Rockets owner.
I have to admit, sometimes I feel like I am when I take a device to Apple, if I'm going to hand it off to them, even Apple, I will blank it out. And I always feel like I'm wearing a tinfoil hat.
No, well,
you see an article like this.
right.
And I
now
will
you
never
know.
give
But
them a
the
code or a password.
But doesn't the article say that the identity theft was accomplished by purchasing information on the dark web? Was it? Did the article mention that
It
this
does
tech
say that
support
she
person-
bought this information for $10 on the dark web, but so it's not related to her work, I
wasn't-
guess, as a tech support staffer.
Yeah, it wasn't. The article was unclear about whether or not this would. It looks like it happened after they were working for tech support.
Okay, so that's relief. That's a relief.
So I'm still wearing a tinfoil hat now.
It's still prudent to anytime and don't let personal information get out of your control unless it's encrypted. And so I do the same thing. It's not because I don't trust Apple. It's because it's just good. It's just prudent. It's the reason why you wash your hands.
This is, by the way, from an Apple Insider series that I am going to check. I always would read the police blotters in the back of the local newspaper, the Argus Courier, because it's so funny.
Right.
This is basically their version of that, but for Apple. Imagine the surprise of two Knox County sheriffs in Knox County, Illinois, when they pulled over a car that was going 104 miles an hour. Inside the car, 53 iPhone 11s and 2 iPhone 10 Maxes. I guess not as excited, but 55 total stolen phones valued at $80,000. Four people were arrested, 2 from New York, 2 from Pennsylvania.
If you've got a bunch of stolen property, all you got to do is drive the speed limit.
Speed.
That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's like a serious Darwin award there.
My car's inspection sticker was like invalid for like a week, and I drove so carefully for fear of being busted. If I had $100,000, $200,000 in stolen goods, oh boy, I don't get it.
That was one of my favorite West Wing lines where they said, "How did you catch the guys?" And he said, "Sir, swear to God, broken taillight. There is no amount. I've learned over my career that there's no amount of law enforcement manpower or funding that can equal criminals being stupid."
That's valuable. Yeah.
Important to remember in this day and age when they're trying to break encryption. I remember a Secret Service. Patrick and I were talking to the Secret Service, and that's what he told me. He said, "You know what? We can pretty much count on these guys to just be dumb, or hand over their password. It's not really that big a deal."
Yeah.
Kenosha News reporting an Ohio man decided to dress as a woman while stealing iPads and iPhones from a Walmart in Wisconsin. He was joined by a crew who acted as lookouts. He used bolt cutters to open the cage at the Walmart, put $24,000 in merchandise into a toaster box, and then paid for the toaster at self-checkout.
Why did he go through all that trouble and dress as a woman? I mean, like I thought he was going to like hide stuff under his dress.
I know. I
or
thought that
like,
too.
And you're like,
no, he put it in a toaster box.
okay.
And then scanned the toaster box, paid $39.95.
A man dressed as a woman is not going to get any attention at all.
Well, obviously a man would never buy a toaster. That's a woman's.
Oh, there you
slang.
go.
I see that.
Clearly.
That was it.
We need the Law and Order sound for each of these.
And
Leo.
feel for the English college student who bought what he thought was a Mac Pro and some iPhones for $1,338. If it had only been $1,337, that would have been a red flag, right? He opened the box at home, and instead of the Mac Pro and iPhones he had seen previously, he found 2 lemonade bottles instead. He says they must have switched the bags on me.
I just want to know, like, why did they decide on the lemonade? Like, have
what
was
some
the
lemonade
discussion there that had it? Like, let's put lemonade in there.
If they were thirsty, what would they put in instead?
It was like Raiders of the Lost Ark. They were like holding the Mac Pro and holding the lemonade and kind of going back and forth. Okay, I think they're about the same weight.
The Birmingham police are going the extra mile to find to somebody who lost their iPhone. Do you recognize these women? It's on the homepage of the iPhone. We recovered this iPhone. We're hoping to reunite with its owner. It was stolen in the early hours of the morning from the Pitcher and Piano in Brindley Place. I want a bar called the Pitcher and the Piano.
British.
Do you though?
No, maybe not. So far, we haven't heard of it being stolen. And apparently, they were able to arrest the thief and return the phone, or maybe not. Maybe they're still looking. If you recognize these women, All right, that's enough of our police blotter, our iOS police blotter. Thank you, Apple Insider. Apple has not been able to invalidate the California Institute of Technology patent. The patent infringement verdict was quashed on Thursday. Weirdly, the court, it actually is a little weird because the patent was, in fact, reversed, I think, but then the court reversed the reversal.
It's like Vertimex. Even if it's invalidated, you still got to pay. It's Judge Whopper all the way down.
Yeah, and it's going to cost Apple $838 million.
At least it's going to Caltech.
And I know. I don't want to do an ad. We got lots more stories. All right, I'll do an ad. Karsten has decided that he is going to now be the ghost.
Listen, Laporte,
the ghost of ads future. Our show today brought to you by Health IQ. Health IQ is a life insurance agency for people like you who go the extra mile to take care of yourself. You exercise 4 more times a week, like Lori Gill. You get a minimum of 8 hours sleep on average, like Alex Lindsay.
Yes.
You eat right, including a lot of chicken and waffles, like Andy Ihnatko. No, I don't think that's in there. But here's the deal. Life insurance has always been statistically based. People who are healthy kind of subsidize people who are unhealthy. Health IQ is a life insurance agency that uses science and data to secure lower life insurance rates for the healthy ones. You can get $1 million insurance policy as little as $36 a month. But here's the trick. You need somebody to go to bat for you. Health IQ gives you concierge white glove service, walks you through the entire process of applying. The policy it's underwritten by one of the top 30 insurance companies, but Health IQ has savings exclusive to them. You won't find them anywhere else for the healthy folks. Now, here's how it works. You have to qualify for this. And it starts with a Health IQ quiz online. It's a knowledge assessment, not a self-assessment. They put together the quiz with the nation's leading medical, health, and fitness experts. Depending on your score, and you can also offer, if you want, other qualifying factors like your Fitbit data or your Apple Watch data, you may save as much as 41% on your life insurance compared to other providers. No commitment. And by the way, there are other great opportunities to be rewarded for your commitment to living healthy. But you got to start by going to healthiq.com/MacBreak. Take the quiz. It's a lot of fun. healthiq.com/MacBreak. You could talk to a member of the Health IQ team, your life insurance concierge. They'll walk you through the process, and you can get the savings you've earned for your healthy lifestyle. healthiq.com/MacBreak. It's a really great idea because for so long, most of the time with insurance companies, you're just a number. Health IQ goes to bat for you to get the price you deserve. Apple Pay coming to Mexico? Okay, fine. Okay, good. It's about time. A new jailbreak hack lets you run Android on your iPhone 7. Why would you want to do that?
I know. It's like, I can make my Ferrari run like a Chevette.
Why would you want to do that?
So you can have Comic Sans as your main system font, Leo. I mean,
Right.
Sometimes, again, why do people climb Everest when there is absolutely nothing to do once you get to the top there? Because it's the challenge.
It is. It's like putting Doom on the
first
Apple
it's Doom,
Watch.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just fun.
Yeah, exactly.
ProjectSandcastle.org if you want to find out more.
Hold on.
If I had an iPhone 7, I would do this just for fun.
Yeah.
I would just do it.
Yep.
I wouldn't
Seems
even
pretty
bother.
funny.
Jason Howell, our host at All About Android, was asking around if anybody had an iPhone 7, he could do this too. So if he finds one, we'll show it on All About Android. They would be interested.
Actually, one part of the big deals about that's less silly about this story is that it's a jailbreak. It unveils a jailbreak technique that does not require a notebook to get going. So there's a new jailbreak technique that you can launch now from an Android device, so that it makes it more convenient, more mobile, more back of a front seat of a car as opposed to back seat of a truck. So it's I would have thought that jailbreaking was kind of like flared trousers. It had its day. There are people who are into it because of nostalgia, but I didn't think there were people who are still actually interested in it. But it's still going on. There's still security that's trying to be broken. That's excellent.
For a long time, Microsoft had an ad campaign. Windows does what? Windows does what? Apparently, there were people who didn't understand that Windows did things. Apparently, also, Apple has no qualms about stealing the campaign for a new iPhone can do what? Wall of iPhone-based tips.
Can we please not spell it that way, though, Apple? I mean,
What? That's how many A's is that? 4 A's. What?
I would have used 6 to get the longer one.
It's
and what's an
It's
interrobang? Shouldn't that be an interrobang?
it's just uncomfortably close to "Hey Andy," and Edith says what?
Andy says what?
What?
And Idiot says what? What? Idiot says what?
Why
Same.
not?
Some Apple stores have this. Look for it at your favorite. It's a wall full of iPhones with a synchronized animation, each of them explaining how to do something different.
There's a lot of meetings to find that.
And running Android is not on that wall, by the way.
No, iPhone can do what?
Yeah. See, that's not a millennial's idea. That's like a Generation Xer who's scared that their job is going to be taken over by a millennial coming up with an idea.
Actually, they should rename it. Okay, Boomer, iPhone can do what?
Store recipes, even balance your checkbook.
What's a
push
checkbook?
button world of tomorrow.
That's straight from the original ad. Stephen Warwick writing again at imore.com. Rumor time, Stephen says. The iPhone 12 leak claims a bigger battery. Yeah, I'd love that. A 64 megapixel camera. Yeah, I'd love that. And a 120 hertz display. Also, a macro ultra wide mode and night mode.
Yes, please, and thank you. Add a zoom to that, and I'll be super happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really okay with like 6 lenses in the back. Like I don't have a problem with just adding more sensors. It's
Credit
really
actually
okay.
to Max Weinbach from Everything Apple Pro, who
I think he's XDA developers. I think Everyday Apple Pro just reported on it.
Oh, okay.
Everything Apple Pro. Yeah, he's
It's
an
very
XDA
confusing because I'm reading an article in iMore that refers to an article in Tom's Guide that refers to Max Weinbach and Everything Apple Pro, and it's all very confusing.
There's this new culture like where people take stuff from Instagram and then re-put it up as their own because they want the clout from it. It's very confusing. So we're just trying to teach best practices across the board.
Yeah, because I always want to refer to the original source and give them credit, right? So Max, this one's for you.
Yeah. That would be weird though if Apple were to use pixel binning as an actual feature. I mean, right now that I like the way that Apple and other manufacturers do that kind of technique where they don't say, hey, we've got a 48 megapixel or 60, 100 kajillion megapixel sensor. They say that, hey, look at how good our digital zoom is, even though it's using the same technique of we're trying to calculate what pixels would be in between the real pixels if we had a sensor that was that good. But also another part of me wonders that if a company like Apple were to actually stand behind this is a 48 megapixel, we are willing to state that this is if we say you're going to get 48 megapixels of data in there, each of those pixels is going to be actually good and usable and valuable, as opposed to what you've got on the Galaxy S20, which is, okay, we counted, that is indeed a lot of megapixels, but none of them are actually usable. You wouldn't actually want to zoom in close enough to actually take use of that.
Gentlemen, we get 364 days a year, but one day every year we dedicate to the ladies. It's International Women's Day. Well, it was, but I wasn't around March 8th. It was on Sunday.
We get one day.
Lori handled it.
You got a day, lady.
One day.
One day. It's great.
Woo-hoo.
It's great.
Yeah,
But Lori crushes it every year. Lori crushes it.
What did you
And
do
one
this
of-
year?
I'm currently in the process of interviewing app developers, presidents of companies, engineers, game designers, all women, for the entire month of March that I'll be rolling out throughout the rest of this
That's nice.
week and next week, and just kind of spotlighting them and reminding everyone. This is what it always comes up for me around this time of year. There's a lot of this sort of incorrect sentiment that there aren't enough women in tech, or women they're not interested in tech, or we can't find any women to do the job in this tech job that we want to do. And that's absolutely not true. They're out there and they're hungry for work. And it's actually getting bigger and bigger as time goes by. More and more women are interested in participating in different types of technology positions, whether it's coding or running a company or, designing or something like that. They're out there and they are participating in it. And there are a lot of women And I just want to make sure that the history books don't write women out of the technological advances that have happened in the world. The way women have been written out of certain other categories in the world. I'm thinking music. So I feel that it's important that we continue to raise awareness and remind people that there are a lot of women out there that are doing a lot of incredible things, especially in the tech world, where we kind of consider that to be not filled with women. They're all out there. We don't see them as often as we should, but they're doing all kinds of things behind the scenes and really making strides and making huge changes around the world. So yay, women.
Yay, women. And actually, it is Women's History Month, so we should give you
correct.
At least that. And Apple I thought they did a great thing in the App Store, highlighting women developers, women-run companies. There were events spotlighting women in the She Creates series at Apple stores and online, which I think is really great.
For the entire month of March, Apple is having women participate in these, hosting these events.
These must be streamed, because I don't think Alicia Keys is coming to my Apple store.
No, and they're different. So first of all, different stores and different locations are going to have, different events. And that specifically, the Alicia Keys is not going to be there. They're allowing you to go in and remix one of Alicia Keys' songs.
My kids have taken a bunch of these.
Are they good?
Oh my gosh, they love them. And they learn a lot. They come back. I mean, I think my daughter goes and she remixes some another band's stuff in GarageBand. And she comes back with all kinds of new ideas of what she can do. And what they do a lot of times is you see that creator is on the big screen and talking about stuff. I saw the Zach King one, I think, at one of the stores. And so he's talking about how to do quick things with your phone. And then and I think it's a really great model for education. I think they're doing a really good job there and of packing these really cool assets along with something that gets you excited, because there's a video of the really famous person, and then you have staff that's been really well trained to kind of walk the kids through it. It's a really strong model, and I think the only reason I talk about it a lot is just that I'm always amazed that my kids come back with these stories about what they learned at the Apple Store, and I wish they'd learned that at school.
Yeah. Do check with your local Apple store because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, due to coronavirus, some of these today at Apple's are being canceled in certain areas.
They should stream them. Not that I have an opinion about that.
Who would you call?
We get 1 month a year, and this darn virus is taking our month away from us. Come on.
We should have a do-over. You should get October.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just have
just
when it's starting up again, and then it'll be a little.
Honestly, half the year should be women's months, but all right.
Every damn day, Leo.
Every damn day. Apple Music is asking Lady Gaga to help as well. The music streaming service's new artist in residence. She's curated a playlist called Women of Choice. Of course, her single Stupid Love is on it, but also music from St. Vincent, Rosalia, Grimes, Charlie XCX. Is that how you say that? It's not 1910 or whatever. And Haim, among others. Taylor Swift will also get one. Meghan Trainor, Kailani, and Hailey Steinfeld will have other artist curated playlists. And Beats One will feature interviews with women. Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, Miranda Lambert, Dua Lipa, and Halsey, among others. So good. Thank you, Apple. Meanwhile, Apple, Spotify, and others accused of music industry conspiracy.
In other news.
In a related story, a new antitrust lawsuit filed yesterday claims Apple and other companies have built out an illegal buyer's conspiracy to block out licensing competition. The complaint was filed with the U.S. District Court for the District of Connecticut by a performers' rights organization, Pro Music Rights, PMR. They're suing the entire streaming music industry and other broadcasting entities, including not just Apple, but Amazon, Google, Spotify, SoundCloud, claiming they entered into an illegal agreement, combination, and or conspiracy. In other words, they colluded to shut PMR out of the market and fix prices.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Well, I don't know.
I
They
think
might
it's-
be right. I did also just read an article that the music industry is having the best year, or had last year the best year it's had since in like 10 years.
And there were
because of streaming music.
There are a lot of us that were saying that 10 years ago. Like, if we just moved to subscription, we're going to make a lot more. Everyone's going to make a lot more money, and there's going to be this down thing. And then, there's a lot of us that were just like, you guys are nuts. Why would you not get paid every time someone plays it? When they buy a CD and then they play that CD over and over and over again because it's their favorite CD, the artist doesn't get any more money. But when you play it on Spotify over and over and over again, or Apple Music over and over again, they get paid every time. Now they don't get paid a lot, but they still get whatever their half cent.
PMR is actually just one 20-year-old guy named Jake Knock.
What a lunatic.
Okay, and the reason he's suing in Connecticut, I guess, is that's where he is. They say he was streaming works that they've licensed to users in Connecticut, having purchased licenses from BMI, but not directly from PMR. PMR says we have the right to license 2 million works from A$AP Rocky, Wiz Khalifa, Pharrell, Young Jeezy, is it Jeezy? Lil Yachty. I always get in trouble with these names. Soulja Boy, Nipsey Hussle, 2 Chainz, Migos, Fall Out Boys, and others. He says, you got to come to me to license it, not BMI. So,
and they're like,
courts will decide.
Okay.
Who are you?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we already made a
are?
deal with BMI.
You would be...
There's BMI and ASCAP, and everybody else. There's not really any reason for these guys to deal with anybody else.
A third party.
Third party. Like, why would they
imagine how crazy it would be?
The insanity.
It'd be hard to
That's why
do.
this
So
guy's a nut job.
I'm sure the courts will have something to say.
Yeah, they're gonna say you're a nut job. I bet you this gets dismissed. Before it even gets to trial.
Summarily dismissed.
Yeah, because he's a nut job.
We called your parents.
Yeah, exactly. Call your parents, and we're sending you home. Stop. Doing this.
On the other hand, maybe he's just a real go-getter.
Yeah, we got some PR out of it.
Maybe that's what it's all about. I don't know. Yeah. It's got to be
That's
tough.
it. That it sort of seems like it's just somebody who is I want my cut is kind of the idea behind this of like, there's a lot of people out there that did the work to make the music good, and somebody just wants to own licensing rights to it and then sue people for not, for sharing licensing rights with other people, it sounds like too. So I don't know. All this stuff seems a little shady to me, and it always rubs me the wrong way when it comes to music stuff and people wanting more money while the actual artists aren't getting, they're getting less and less because these other companies are wanting more and more. So I don't know. Stop
Spoken as a true unsigned artist.
Exactly.
So you didn't have a deal with PMR with Jake?
I did not have a deal with Jake.
Sick Burn is not
BMI,
represented.
I don't know, maybe.
He's not represented by PMR. He's not represented by Jake. All right, let's take a break. Get your picks of the week prepared and ready because we are going to wrap things up. But first, a word from our sponsor. I'm just logging into my Hover account. Hover's where I register all my domain names. And I can give you a couple of reasons why I'm a big fan of Hover. Let me just put my two-factor in. That's one of the reasons I'm a big fan. Hover's security is excellent. In fact, there was at one point somebody who was going around trying to hijack podcasters' URLs. I got a call from Hover immediately saying, hey, we've had this problem. We're going to fix it. Put two-factor on. I like that. I like a company. Look, there's security flaws. There's problems all the time. I always judge a company not by whether they're flawless, but by how they respond when something happens and how they fix it. And Hover did a great job.
I can't remember when I changed to Hover, but it's
awesome.
So much better. Yeah,
it's awesome. Great. You see all these are the domains. And by the way, one of the things you get when you register a domain, these are all my domains.
Easy to manage too. I mean, the interface is
nice.
The
DNS is great.
Yeah.
Hover will do your email for you or forward your email along. They have one-to-button connectors to all of the major websites, and so it's very easy. In fact, I love having domain names because I use them all the time. For like my Minecraft server has its own domain, right? Which makes it easy to share that. My cloud has its own domain.
I just meant I have ideas and I just lets me express them. Everyone has a hobby, and I can do a business around that, and I make a URL, and then I never do anything with it.
It's really for anybody who's business minded or an entrepreneur. Hover is kind of a must have because you can't really do a business if you don't have the domain.
Yeah.
First thing you do is is the domain available. Every great idea deserves a great domain name. 300 extensions, too. So you're not limited to just .com, .net. You can see I use a lot of third-party weird extensions, which, Leo.pizza is still available if anybody wants that, but I have a lot of other ones, including Leo.social, Laporte.tech, Laporte.coffee. I still haven't figured out what to do with. I think if my coffee maker ever needs a domain, I have it.
Yeah.
Laporte.host. I haven't used that one, but I thought that may be for web hosting as opposed to show hosting.
And you can get creative. Like, I made a mistake and let my, moving back and forth before Hover. This is actually why I moved to Hover, and let alexlindsay.com, which I had registered like in 2000 expire, and someone bought it. And I was like, no one's used it, but so I asked them how much they wanted to pay, and they were, it was expensive. I was like, I'm not going to pay for it. So I got a bunch of other other things that I can use at Hover, and it was just easy to find them. It's easy to grab onto it, and then I told the guy to go,
go do yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things I really like about having your own domain names is having a unique email address that you can have different email providers, but you give out that one address for the rest of your life. That's it. I registered Leoist. It's very short as my short domain URL. So I can use that for a domain shortener, which is because it's only 6 characters, leo.ist. I couldn't get leo.com or leo.net or leo.org, but I was able to get Leoist, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of fun. And so Hover makes it very easy. You can see I have domain forwarding turned on here. So when you go to leo.ist, it forwards to my Keybase proof of identity, things like that. I just think this is such a great thing to do. Notice Whois Privacy is on by default, part of the price. I always turn on transfer lock and auto renew too, because I want my domains to review automatically. I love Hover for registering domains. No matter what you want to build, no matter what business you want to start, there's a domain name waiting for you. Great technical support. No upsell. I think that's really important because there are a lot of registrars you got to go through 30 pages of crap just to register a domain name. It's a very easy to manage UI, and if you do your own DNS, some of you do. I like it that you can do the automated stuff with like Squarespace and WordPress and all that. But I do a lot of custom DNS, and they make it as easy as possible to do that. You should check regularly because they have monthly sales on popular TLDs. So, you go there. .me was on sale a while ago. .blog. You can get some great domain names. Use a domain name that represents your passion, that represents you. And once you start registering domain names, you'll find many more. Sickburn, sickburn.pizza. I think sickburn.ninja. Yeah. Is there a...
I like sickburn.pizza. That's pretty good.
Yeah. There probably is a sickburn.rock or rocks. Hover.com/twit. Go right now. Check it out. 10% off your domain extension. 10% off for the full year. So... they're very affordable to begin with, but I really am a fan. We all use Hover. Even Steve Gibson, because he was moving off one of the old, the classic ones that, he was just terrible, that everybody used, really expensive. And he asked on Twitter, what should I use? And everybody said, just use Hover, Steve. Yeah. And he's so happy to.
And they do, and they can move your URLs. They have kind of a concierge service, right? They can.
They do, because as you can see, when we moved to Hover years ago, I moved a ton of addresses, and I asked them, can you do the work? It was a lot easier to do that, although it's not hard to do it. I've got twit.watch, twit.agency, twit.questions, twit.careers.company.equipment.expert. I've got, I always thought if I ever get arrested, I want to have freelaporte.com. So I'm saving that. You see, I registered that 6 years ago. I'm saving it just in case. freelaporte.com. It could be like Free Willy.
Yes.
Hover.com/twit. Thank you, Hover. Andy Ihnatko, let's start with you this week. Your pick of the week.
We had a really, really big and important anniversary happen on Sunday. It was on March 8th of 1978. The first episode of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy went out on BBC Radio.
Can you believe that? How long it's been?
That's amazing. And it's the 42nd anniversary, which is we're not celebrating the 50th. Well, okay, we'll celebrate the 50th as well, but you got to celebrate the 42nd. And so this is a good chance to remind people who maybe a lot of these things skip a generation. So there's a whole generation that didn't grow up with peers who are like, oh my God, you haven't read the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You go, here, take my copy. You don't even give it back. it's still just one of the funniest, one of the best, one of the most influential of science fiction books ever written. And for me, especially like as a kid, I had lots of friends who were into science fiction, but I didn't like most of the science fiction that they recommended because a lot of it was, hi, I'm 43 years old and I'm going to explain to you how I think the universe would be different if doorknobs were all square. I'm like, okay, characters, plot. No. But okay, now also because the doorknobs are square, yeah, I'm not really interested in the square doorknobs. It was full of fantasy and just absurdism, influenced by Monty Python and influenced by P.G. Wodehouse. And every single page, this is just absolute silliness from page after page after page, but with coherence. And it all started off with this BBC radio series. And one of the reasons why it's just so bizarre is because Douglas Adams was real, even decades after his death. The legend of how he just did not want to get anything done on time persists. If anything, it is magnified like a giant prism spreading out throughout the cosmos. So he was writing scripts as the thing was being recorded. Like they'd be recording Act 1 and he'd be in another room like writing Act 2 and Act 3.
Here's the group. You got Lori's got it. That's nice. And the radio series is the best one. This is the group Douglas Adams and the performers at the BBC Theater. Let me play. Every time I hear it, I think I can play a little bit of this. Can you get my audio? You can't hear? Oh, wait a minute. I turned it off. Let's turn it back on.
The Sounds of Theatre from National Public Radio.
I recorded the public radio one. So that's why that begins with that. But here's the sound, the Eagles song that begins it.
Journey of the Sorcerer. Yeah.
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. Starring Peter Jones as the book.
Something's wrong with it. It's sped up, so I apologize. But there's the music.
Yep.
Every time I hear that music, I get
familiar.
chills. I get chills.
Yeah.
So remember, we talk about the books, we talk about the movie, we talk about the TV show, but it was originally a BBC radio show. As you said, Douglas Adams was writing it as they were going to the studio. And it is amazing. One of the greatest radio shows of all time. It is
and I would say Pan, the Macmillan publisher, I think Pan something, they're doing like reprints of the entire series, including the radio scripts. I would suggest if you can't get a hold of definitely listen to the radio series. But the books are also amazing. The first three, let's say, and maybe the fourth in the series are also good. There was a fifth, and at this point, the publisher was basically saying, hi, but I really want to write this book about traveling the world and looking for nearly extinct species. Like, okay, we will let you write that book if you write us another another series, another Hitchhiker's book. And so it's even the book of radio scripts is an amazingly good read because it has all of the stage directions and all the background stuff. And so this is a series that I reread every year.
It's still sped up. I'm gonna have to get a new copy of it. Did you buy that somewhere, Lori? Because that's
It was a Christmas present to me, but I believe they found it on Amazon. So I think that I don't think it's hard to find it. It's a 14 CD set.
Oh, it's on Audible. Good. All right. Because like I said, I recorded this off the radio. Maybe that's why. After being translated over and over and over again, it's slightly sped up. I agree 100%. 42nd anniversary. Yeah. Hard to believe. Hitchhiker's Guide.
Life answer and everything in the universe. 42.
That's right. 40. Oh, that's why it's a big deal.
Exactly.
Oh, Leo. Remember how I think I even said that last week when I recommended that Filson field bag, that all my life ever since I was a little kid, part of me was like, at some point I'm going to have to acquire a bag that's what I figure is exactly like what Ford Prefect was traveling the universe with as a field contributor to the Hitchhiker's Guide.
And you got to keep a towel in it, of course.
And I feel exactly. Yeah. That's why I like that weather flap because you can put the towel on top of it and then just simply put the flap over it. I wish I were joking.
Very nice.
And there's a lot there's the I think the one you're looking for is narrated by Peter Jones, Simon Jones, the long
Peter
list.
Jones.
They do the audiobook, which is like Stephen Fry and Martin Freeman, which are good.
That's fine. It's very good. In fact, you should have it all.
Yeah, you should listen to it.
Yeah, it's true. You should.
Pretty much everyone that I know, if you say, I've got a question, the reaction is always 42.
Yeah.
It's just like, and then we can figure it out.
It's show James Thompson.
Renee Ritchie has a great pick for us as well. Renee?
Yeah, so in order to compete with Andy, who just kept looking more and more realistic every week, I had to up my webcam game. I tried everything. I tried DSLRs, tried cine cameras. Nothing worked. So finally I broke down, and it's not quite what Lori had last time. I think she had something a little bit fancier, but I got the Logitech 4K camera, and it's just...
Is this the
Brio? Previous one I had was 10. Yeah. I had the 1080p one, the 920 for so long, and it was a good camera at its time. But when I saw what Lori looked like with the latest and greatest technology, I knew I had to up my game. So it's a little bit pricier. It's $199.
I was thinking about it. I was thinking, wow, you look really good. I figured you just got the new webcam, or is it the capture cam? Is that right? Is that what you have, Lori?
Oh, sorry, it's the stream cam.
Stream cam
is what it's called.
Not stream cam.
Yeah.
So the stream cam. So I thought that was you just followed what she did, but
I swerved.
Yeah, you were like, I got to do better. No, it looks good. It looks really good.
He needed that 4K.
Yeah. And it's good now because everyone is stressing remote work and distancing and all these things. And if you use MacBooks, for all of their virtues, do not have good webcams. It's just not something that Apple has prioritized over super slim lids. So it can either, I have mine on a GorillaPod, but because you can unscrew the little flap there and just mount it on any tripod you want. But you can get it with this and just put it on the back of your display, especially if you don't have a webcam. And the better you look, the more like in real life I find the experience feels. It is USB-C on that side. It is not USB-C on the other side. I felt a little bit like I was caught in a time machine, so I just pulled that plug out and stuck a proper USB-C in there.
There's Andy's version.
I'm helping out because you can't show off this camera because you're using this camera. This is mine.
Yeah.
So yes, here's it's a big advantage over like the previous edition of this camera because on the previous edition the thingy that lets you screw it into a tripod and perch it on top of your monitor is actually like hard mounted into the thing, which made it almost impossible to like pack for travel. But with this one, it comes with a detachable version of that. The only caveat I will give, if you have an older Mac, like a 2015 let's say a mid-range i5 Mac from a few years ago, you might find that you can't stream in 4K or use the digital zoom features of it, because I found that when I have this plugged into my MacBook, my 2015 MacBook Pro, it is a 4K camera, and the Logitech software you can download lets you use a digital zoom, so you're still getting full HD even though you're using a digital zoom. But it was still pumping so much data into that USB 3 port that it was downscaling it quite severely. So I wasn't getting the advantages that I thought I was going to be able to get. But on a more modern Mac and on a higher capacity Mac, it works just great.
And I really think that Logitech has really kind of cornered this market as far as high quality cameras. I mean, whether it's the 920s were our standard for a long time, and I think they now have the 922, and then the StreamCam, and then the Brio, and I just think it's the best class of cameras right now at different price points. And I've tested a lot of webcams, and I think that the detail that you see, and even just what it does with light sensitivity and control over the cameras, I think is pretty much the best.
It's not just the resolution. If you're still using a 920, it really is. Like I'm actually doing this with the 920 still because I need to swap out some hardware. You would not see quite so much of this blooming. You would see better shadow detail once I swap out. I'm swapping out a new computer onto this station, and that's when I'm going to be putting this in permanently. But you can see the difference. It's a good situation, but it would be a lot better just with simply tonality. So even if you don't care about 4K. You'll get a big improvement in the video quality.
And you really can. I mean, we've done some stuff where we're taking multiples of these cameras and plugging them in and using Wirecast or OBS, where you're jumping between those cameras. If you're really looking for a cost-effective way to do live streaming, that is that starts to get pretty far down the road. I need
something with HDMI out though, because I got that Blackmagic Mini ATEM.
Well, see, I was going to pick the Canon C500 Mark II, Leo. That has HDMI out, but I figured it's not a great webcam.
Yeah, well, it's also probably more than $200. Yeah, I'm guessing. Thank you. Good pick. We've used Logitech cameras and set them out for years, but that one looks even better than usual. That's really good. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Alex Lindsay's pick of the week.
So QuickTime's great.
QuickTime is QuickTime even? Do they still offer QuickTime?
Yeah, they do. QuickTime's free.
Yeah.
So QuickTime
God,
Is it
love
free?
QuickTime
Not
Pro.
QuickTime Pro.
Well, QuickTime
It's
Pro.
built in. There's no more QuickTime
There's
Pro.
there's just QuickTime. There's just
Okay.
QuickTime, and it's great. And I use it a lot to do screen records and to play back stuff, and it's on everything, and you can pop it open. But some of us need something more refined.
Well, you need LUTs, crops, and flops.
I do. I do need. So I actually needed this because I shoot almost everything on my Blackmagic camera in log. And so being able to, have lookup, being able to open something up and then have a lookup table and being able to really look at what I'm, and having a more refined player that I can use. So this is called Screen.
Log is a professional format that doesn't
Logarithmic.
It doesn't
Screen
look
record
good.
in log.
But
some people. So if you're out there shooting in log and then posting that to YouTube without making any transform,
Yes, don't.
Shame on you.
That's a weird
shame
look.
on you. It is like.
But the reason you use it is because you're getting more data, but you have to apply a LUT.
Then you play a LUT, a lookup table.
Otherwise, it won't look like.
I use the
It looks
Arri
like
LUT.
it was someone poured coffee on it.
Yeah.
And so you have to put it through the lookup table, and you can do that in Final Cut. You can do it in After Effects and Premiere, and all those things. But the idea is that why do I want to open it? I just want to view it. I want to have really be able to play with what that looks like. Being able to kind of have. Look at image sequences, all of these things are things that are important. And so this is just a great app. It feels pro. It has the tools that you need. And so if you're really looking, there's all these things that people like me really want. And so if you're listening and you're really into you're looking for a pro player that really gives you all that kind of power user data, I think this is the best solution I've found as a kind of a lightweight playback tool that I can just kind of open up. It's not like open it into Final Cut or open it into something else.
This is what
It's
you
just
use for your TikTok videos.
No, I use Final Cut for my TikTok videos. This is what I preview the playbacks on. So for my
$99
TikTok
a year, $29 thereafter.
Yeah, it's not something that if you just need a
It's
little
for
free
pros.
player, but if you're a pro, that's not a big number. And for all of these tools to be all kind of put in here, and you can do some export and transcode. So
I love for all of the features, it's got just a pure, clean display.
Well, and the other nice thing about it is you can't hide it all. So there's like a little caret there on the right, and you can roll it up, roll it down. So you're not like stuck with having all, but you can open it up and then have all these tools. So it does allow you to have kind of a clean aperture when you want it.
Right.
And so I just think that this is how you turn on all. Now, this is how you really, if you're doing kind of pro work and you want to be able to view it, it's not for your average person to just put to get this. And it also works with, they have another one called Lattice, which allows you to kind of build the LUTs or create new LUTs and work with LUTs and so on and so forth. So there's a couple different options there. And so it's a very useful app.
This is quite amazing. What a lot of stuff in here.
Yeah.
I like the barcode.
I haven't used the barcode. It's kind of like, I was kind of like, I don't know what I do with that. But I think that it does give you a look of your entire film. So if you had something really long, you can take a look at it and see if, and some of this gives you a sense of what colors you're going through in different scenes. So
the barcode basically takes the kind of the color from any given frame and puts them all together.
Kind of just squeezes all the frames together
into one long image that looks like a barcode, a little like a barcode, but you could kind of, like if your film is gloomy and gray, it will be gloomy and gray.
right, exactly. Whereas like this was the gloomy, you can see here you had the Act 1 was sunny,
right,
and then Act 2 was gloomy,
very gray,
and Act 3 was sunny again.
Yeah.
So they got him. They described the tree in Act 1. They got him up the tree in Act 2, and they got him down the tree in Act 3.
Who was it I interviewed recently, Karsten, that does this for movies? Like this was his thing. He was doing big prints, big long prints.
Oh, I don't know.
But he couldn't ever get Hollywood to buy into it. Well,
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was somebody really cool, and I just forgot. Screen is available from videovillage.co for as I said, $99. Good pick. Lori Gill has a cineast's pick too. Hello, Lori Gill.
Hi. So Mac Savant passed away yesterday. He was 90 years old.
I was so sad when I read that. I just love him.
He's been in so many movies that I think if you don't know his name,
you know his
you
face.
would just know him because he's just been a working actor for a very, very long time. This pick actually comes from Karsten. Thank you, Karsten, for the recommendation on this. I had never heard of this movie before yesterday. It's called The Apple War, and it stars Max von Sydow. It's a Swedish film from 1971 about a very small rural town in Sweden that is being there's some investors that want to come in and they want to build a Deutschland, which would be a very large amusement park.
Just for German tourists.
Everyone's on board with it. Yep. Everyone's on board with it at first because it seems like a really great idea. It'll bring in, more tourists to buy things, and there's this amazing. Sort of city council meeting or a resident meeting at the beginning where all these people are asking, well, I'm a pig farmer. Do you think that I could raise these pigs and maybe sell them to the children so that they could have them as pets? And then I could even buy them back from them when they're all grown up and I could, butcher them and sell them for meat. And there's this investor guy who's like, yeah, that's a possibility. So there's all these sort of these people that are asking, how will this benefit my town? And there's this investor who is kind of like, sure, that's a possibility. So they all get on board with it at first, but then they start to realize that maybe this isn't really going to be such a great idea for the town to bring in this giant conglomerate. It's very much pitting home life and community against these giant corporations that would come in and just level out something and turn it into an amusement park. And there's that sort of, paving of paradise idea behind it. It's got fantastical elements in it. There's a little magic to be had in the family that Max von Sydow is the head of, that to trick and use magic to kind of get the town back to its roots and not have this giant amusement park built in their town. So it's a very lovely little story. And I found a version of it on YouTube that has US
I was going to ask
subtitles.
where you found this, because a 1971 movie from Sweden is not going to be on Netflix.
It's very hard to find it, and it's because I wanted to watch this before today. I didn't go find a DVD copy that had subtitles. Don't even know if that exists actually, but I did find somebody on YouTube, and I don't want to. It's a movie, so I want people to buy it. So I don't want to mislead people, but I did find it on the internet with English subtitles on YouTube. So if you do want to do the search yourself, you should be able to find it, and it's really great. Honestly, that's one of those things where I wish that this could happen more, so that I wouldn't have been able to watch that movie if it weren't for the fact that just somebody who loved this movie put it up with subtitles, U.S. subtitles, so I could see it.
Nice.
So it's great.
The Appelkriget.
Appelkriget.
He plays the family fighting Deutschland, which is being built by somebody called Gene Volkswagener.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling it's a little bit of satire.
And his wife.
It's very satirical and lighthearted and fun. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm going to save my pick for the end of the show. We're going to show it. We have a new show coming in a couple of weeks to Twit called Hands on Macintosh. I said, you know what? I want to do this one. So we're going to have a lot of fun showing. The first thing I show is the better toolbar, better touch bar. But we'll talk a little. I'm going to do a lot of terminal stuff because I'm all over about the terminal and brew, and so that's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be a weekly show, comes out every Friday, short, 5-10 minutes, quick hits, little Mac tips for the expert and the inexpert. So we'll play a little promo for that at the end of the show. But first, I want to thank everybody for being here. In Women's Month, it's so important to have a woman in the show. Thank you, Lori Gill, for making this more than just a sausage fest. She's managing.
I am a woman every month.
Every month she's a woman. It's amazing. She's just very consistent that way. Catch your band Sickburn at a theater near you. Appaholic on the Twitter, APPAHOLIK. Thank you, Lori. So nice.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel really good about being the bread in this sausage factory.
Oh, jeez. That means Alex Lindsay's the mustard. He is.
I relish him.
He is at 090.media at Alex Lindsay on the Twitter. and joins us every week. And it's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you
for making your way up. Renee Ritchie from iMore. His Vector show is at imore.com/Vector. He works very hard to make new shows for you every single day. What's the current episode about?
I start speculating about how Apple can make 5 iPhones in a year, and their prices could range from $399 to whatever, adding a 5G modem to the already $1099 Macs. And then tomorrow's show is all about what Apple could do with WWDC if we're not all there in person.
You know, I didn't do the Jean-Louis Gasset article. I'd mentioned it. I teased it, but I forgot to put it in the content about ARM and the future of ARM and how it might even be possible with some new high-end ARM designs to make a Mac, professional Mac, not quite a Mac Pro maybe, but a Mac. So we'll save that for next week. Yep. Andy Ihnatko, not Chicago Sun-Times, former Chicago Sun-Timeser, America's favorite sideburns. Emeritus. He's also West Coast editor for, I don't know, I've lost track of what I'm saying, WGBH Boston.
Part of the mighty WGBH Boston's public radio station, NPR. I'm going to be on Thursday at 12:30 this week, and then back to Fridays after that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. We do MacBreak Weekly on Tuesdays, right after iOS Today. Actually, can make this a whole Mac Apple day for yourself. iOS Today starts at 9 a.m. Pacific, and then we come on around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, adding 8. That would be 1900 UTC. Check us out at twit.tv/MBW, or best thing to do, subscribe in your favorite podcaster. And that way you'll get the show the minute it's available every single Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. Time to get back to work because break time is over. Now a look at hands-on Macintosh. See you later. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new show on the Twit Network. This is episode 0 of Home Hands-on Mac. My name is Leo Laporte. You may have seen me on such shows as The Screensavers and Call for Help. I've been doing MacBreak Weekly for almost 15 years, but I wanted to do a short show, a 5-minute program every week that will cover my favorite Mac apps, my favorite Mac tips, getting deep into the terminal, using Brew, all of the tools that people have been using Mac, like me, for years, really love about this great operating system. One thing that's sure, Apple has not made Mac OS easier to use over the years, but it has made it more powerful. And I'm going to show you ways you can get the most out of your Macintosh. The show will come out every Friday. It's a quick hit. You can watch or listen, but you got to subscribe. Go to your favorite podcast application or Stitcher or Slacker or Pocket Cast, or you know the drill. Subscribe to Hands on Mac. We're also on YouTube, and you can always get it from our website at twit.tv/HOM. There's audio and there's video. Whichever way you subscribe, I will see you starting March 20th. That's 1 week from today, our very first Hands on Mac. I'll see you then.